is a world of pirates.
Straw Hats! I'm gonna be king of the pirates.
I want you to think of this like an artistic exercise.
Free yourselves. Take to the seas. My treasure is yours to find.
You heard it up top. We really are looking for treasure on this one because we're all just a bunch of pirates setting sail, hitting the seas, using our super magic abilities. That's right. Stretching, splitting, doing all that great fun stuff because we're talking One Piece here on Normies Like Us with your hosts, Monkey D. Colin, of course.
Oh, it's going to be Mikey D. Luffy, so.
Oh, you can be my grandfather.
Okay, yeah, that works.
Mikey D. Garp.
That's right, Mikey D. Garb.
Sure. And this will be Rora Jacob Zoro.
Yeah, Jacob
Obviously.
Zoro.
I
guess
Not
Colin...
Juggy the Clown.
Oh, Juggy the Clown. That was first. Bachelor Party, I think.
That's...
But so we're here talking One Piece, specifically kind of the Netflix version of this. But Colin, you definitely are the Monkey D. Luffy here because this is kind of something that you grew up with, and I kind of had no knowledge of this. So kind of what's the background on this this pirating adventure show that obviously beloved by many, just didn't cross my radar until the live action came out?
Yes, and I'm so glad we are going to be talking the live action because that is such a great entry point into this thing. Because here's the issue. We have almost done a One Piece episode, I want to say like 3 times, Mike, because every time we get a March Madness, where each of our hosts gets to pick whatever they want to talk about, I always kind of like look at my little ducks in a row and go, is it time to talk about what I consider my favorite thing in pop culture? And honestly, every time instead I go like Aladdin or something esoteric like 1998 or something else that I think is just a little easier to digest than what is considered, you know, truly universally one of the #1 pop culture things of all time. It has a huge audience, but it is also so big, it is almost insurmountable. So there's going to be a lot of background that I want to talk about, but yes, please.
And I'm excited to talk about it too, because going into this, I knew kind of nothing, not nothing. I knew who Luffy was. I knew about Nami and Zoro, like more or less, but I'd never seen episodes. And like I knew it was like 1,000 episodes plus, and a lot of my friends were fans of it, but we didn't have it, you know, in Midwest when I was growing up, you know. But ever since I've come out here, especially in the West Coast, like obviously it's probably a lot more accessible at that time to get it. So everybody here is fucking into it. So I've learned a lot through osmosis, but the show was my really first crack at like learning about these characters and their stories. So excited to talk about it because it is daunting. That's why I never got into it. The 1,000 episodes, and I can talk about that when we get into it. But Jacob, do you ever One Pieced in your life before this?
How many pieces are you in right now?
Yeah,
I'm kind of like you, where it's you know, I'm familiar with it. I've seen some episodes and whatnot. For me, like when I was in high school, I feel like there was always that one weird kid that was really into One Piece. And so I kind of stayed away from it based on that, because there was just always that, like there was like the kids that are into anime, but then there was the extra weird kid that was like really into One Piece. And I feel like that or Naruto like just had a really big kind of cult fan base, at least where I grew up. But so I was interested in it, but I didn't know too much about it. But I do know like some of the characters, like you said, like I know Luffy, I know the Straw Hat Pirates, I know all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So important what you just said for the entire discussion that we're going to be having today about this thing that came out in 1997, Jacob. We are all about the same age. And the fact of the matter is, in the early 2000s and in the late 90s, anime was the least cool thing on the planet.
Right.
Maybe, because again, it was the harsh 90s. Maybe if you were gay, you were worse than a kid who liked anime, but it was close.
Right.
It truly was close, and a terrible time in society. And it's so important to point out because, Jacob, I think it was one of those things that inherently in my bones and soul, to give my history of it, of this magazine coming to America called Shonen Jump, which was this huge entry point for Western people to take this collection of the most popular manga comic books in Japan ever and go, hey, young people, let's see if we can get you into this with this grab bag of Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece, Yu-Gi-Oh, which were the big things. And Jacob, the people who got their hands on that were the weird kids at lunch, dog.
Yeah.
It was a real stigma, right?
Well, I feel like, Dragon Ball a little bit cooler. Like, at least you could be like, yeah, I like it because they like fight and stuff. But like One Piece, it's all about like positivity and friendship and all your crewmates getting along 90s, and stuff.
We had Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah,
that's not cool.
And the aesthetic, just the way the characters look and stuff. It's a little offbeat. So I can see how people be like, oh, this is weird. Like, it wasn't very mainstream. But the people that were fans of it were like really big fans of it, right?
I will go further and say, Jacob, the big eyes of anime, the cartoonish smiles, what you said, the silly positive energy, the fact that it was a cartoon, and you would have to say to your parents, hey, like my older brother did, which was my entry point. He requested Shonen Jump for Christmas, the year it came out, 1997, and said, Mom, Dad, I want you to get me this comic book collection of basically children's cartoons, things aimed at young Asian boys. That was a super hard sell in 1997, dog. Right. And honestly, it causes a little distance where me growing up to peer pressure, I was like, I want nothing to do with this.
Yeah, there was kind of a stigma against it. Even like being into like Pokemon in high school. Yes. I felt like by that 100%. Time, like middle school, it was cool. Everyone had the card and stuff. And then like by high school, it was like not cool to be into Pokemon.
Yes.
But I mean, for me, it was like in the early 2000s, getting into like seeing Cowboy Bebop on Toonami on Cartoon Network, right? They would air that. And that was kind of my introduction to anime that I was kind of more into, because I was like, oh, this is sick, like sci-fi future. Like I love the art style and everything. And then, getting into things based on that. But like One Piece was just something that I kind of stayed away from, I think mainly due to the aesthetic. Like I didn't totally vibe with the aesthetic of the art and and the characters. But I didn't know that much about it. And like actually the character writing is maybe its strength, but we'll talk about that. So
interesting.
I think Toonami, especially kind of being from the Midwest area,
yes.
like, we there's not a lot of import happening. It's coming from the West Coast and then getting traded at trade shows until it somehow gets to the Midwest. Like the pipeline for getting fresh anime. So a lot of people,
I was not getting Shonen Jump like Colin was.
No, certainly not.
You have
but
to seek it out.
I ask you guys now though, as this trigger point in time. That's where we were. That was the anchor. We're in 2023 now. Yes, Mike. We're talking about where people are arguing, is this the best adaptation, a live action adaptation of an anime? You have people who say flat out, you have, Jacob, basketball players who are like, I'll talk your ear off about anime. Anime is the coolest thing on the planet.
Yes, a lot of NFL players like, Jamal Williams likes anime.
A lot of
he'll only autograph anime. Yeah.
A lot of athletes are really into Dragon Ball Z specifically too, because I think a lot of athletes that are in their 20s and stuff now grew up watching that, and they did have a little more access once it started getting popular in the 2000s and into the 2010s. And now kids don't know how good they have it, where Netflix has gone like all in on anime. You can watch so many different shows just directly from Netflix. You don't even need Crunchyroll or anything.
Jacob, my neighbor Michael Hines would import, he wouldn't buy them, he would request at Suncoast Video, who had a deal to import these things, the uncut versions of DBZ tapes that had the blood in it, dog. Do you know how expensive that was, how hard that was to do, how to get those things? Yes, now a kid at 2 a.m. after he finally does his homework, hits his vape pen, turns on the craziest anime on Netflix you've ever seen, or watches something like Adventure Time, modern Western cartoons, which are extremely anime influenced.
Yeah, Western more adult cartoons have really caught up too, with like even Rick and Morty and that kind of stuff. But I think it's interesting, like everyone in their 20s and 30s now can admit that they're anime fans because it's cool now, it's part of pop culture. But like, they grew up in the 90s and 2000s, secretly maybe watching Dragon Ball Z and not telling their friends about it. Now they can admit it.
Right.
Here's the thing, Jacob. This episode in particular is a celebration to people like my brother who were out loud and proud, who were saying, no, in fact, I do like this, at a time where, I kid you not, I watch kids get their ass kicked every day for busting Yu-Gi-Oh cards out. Yeah, it was what it was.
Savage. And now you have anime cons where they can't even, it's so packed that they can't even fit the crowds in. I don't think it was like that in the 90s.
No,
right.
Not even close.
But yeah, the distribution access, we got what you got on Toonami, and like One Piece didn't even run until 2005. So we're like graduating high school. So like we got Dragon Ball, Cowboy Bebop, Gundam Wing,
those were just my final part of my history to say truly how I got into it. That was my entry point, Mike, of I would watch Dragon Ball with my brother when we got home from school when we were younger. That's what influenced him to request this catalog of comic books. My parents were divorced. Car rides truly were my life. Like every day was, you're going to this person's house, this person's picking you up, we're trading you with this person, truly nonstop. So when I would bring my Bill Almond Foxtrot books, Jacob, which is something I was a little more into, I would burn through those. And then if my brother was using his Game Boy, but maybe still had his Shonen Jump there, I would say, okay, pass that over. Can I read that? And to see, oh, Goku, I know this guy. This is someone I can anchor. Oh, what's this next story? I'll try something new. That is how I found One Piece. And I will just say I was how old in 1997? I'm 34 now. I was born in 1989. How old does that make me?
8 years old?
You were probably 8. I was
8
7.
years.
Yeah.
Okay. 8 or 7, something like that. I have read it once a week for the rest of my life, and I am 34 years old.
Wow.
And it is something I have never missed or not checked in on. It's something I absolutely adore and absolutely love. And again, the idea that Netflix made a live action series of it, and now people in my life say things like, well, Colin, that One Piece thing, you like that? What is that? I'm starting to see this now. I could not be more excited. So thank you for all going on this road with us. Yeah.
And I just want to say, like, you being into the manga is interesting because I've heard good things specifically about the manga, and even better than the anime adaptation. Like true hardcore fans really like the manga and say it's really good. When I was in those car rides as a kid, I was not even aware of like that world of manga and such. So I was into traditional Western comic books, or not even comic books, but comics, like
comic strips,
Foxtrot, like you mentioned, and Calvin and Hobbes were my my go-tos. Yeah. So
God,
I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah.
I am too, actually, because it is one of the like biggest properties in media. Somehow it was a cultural blind spot for me, even though I was into anime. And now we have a show here that I think is introducing a lot of people to this property. And it doesn't stop there. I think I may have had more than one piece of this pie, and we can probably jump into that when we go to talk about the live action, perhaps right after this.
Yeah.
But before that, Gomu Gomu podcast.
We're back here on Normies Like Us. We're riding on the merry go, our ship, and hitting the open seas. That's right. It's dangerous. We're taking up this pirating lifestyle because we're talking One Piece here on Normies Like Us, the Japanese adventure phenomenon manga that is about a young man named Monkey D. Luffy who sets out to become king of the pirates in a sort of fictional world inspired by our own pirating age, you could say.
Yeah, it's an interesting world. We kind of knew going in, that it's a pirate thing. The ships are very well known, I think, just in pop culture. So it's this interesting world they've created, and
yes.
Netflix has, brought it to life. We mentioned a lot of people, even the fans, are saying this is probably the best adaptation. We've been through a Death Note. We've been through a Cowboy Bebop. They were a little rough. Well, Death Note was very rough. Bebop was somewhat rough at the end. But really, this thing, for a lot of fans, say it's pretty solid. Like, so, Colin, do we have a little bit of background of how this came to be?
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, it might be the reasoning behind it being so rock solid is the involvement of the creator. We have Eiichiro Oda.
Correct.
Oda-san. Who is the creator of One Piece. He's what you call the mangaka. Now that means you're not just necessarily the artist or the author. You are combined to create fully, everything realized about this thing. A black and white shonen comic book, which is, of course, again, aimed at teenage males, is essentially what the title shonen implies there.
Yeah, they're trying like coming of age, lighthearted friendship story. Like Naruto would be a shonen, right? This is too, that's probably the two most famous ones, I'd say.
And opposed to is it jonen? What is berserk? What is seinen?
Oh, that's
what
seinen.
Is the word for that?
Seinen is adult.
That's a little more edgier.
Yeah.
Sure. Not that.
No. That's how I got
Colin,
started. I was watching Ninja Scroll, so I missed a little bit of shonen action.
Yeah.
So we're here for it.
Sure, Ninja Scrolls.
I had older cousins. Okay, they were getting the tapes. I was in the living room. Anyway.
Normies, if you remember, back in the beginning of this year, we were doing a watch, and I was talking about I was getting into I was looking for a show to get into and I was like, let me see if there's like a long running anime, maybe like a shonen anime that I can get into. I was looking on Netflix and I looked into One Piece, ultimately decided on another shonen, which is Hunter x Hunter, Hunter x Hunter for you
the big three
casuals, you know. But I think Hunter x Hunter has a lot of similarities with you know, Naruto and One Piece. Just in, you know, shonen can be sort of formulaic in the base of it, but then, you know, it's what you do with that formula that counts. But so I got into another long running shonen show, but One Piece was under consideration. Yeah.
Hunter x Hunter would end up, of course, being published in Shonen Jump. Before that, Yu Yu Hakusho, which was that creator's book, was a long-time companion piece to One Piece. And again, I do have to say, most of these creators, these mangaka, really are inspired by Akira Toriyama, who is the creator of Dragon Ball, who did...
Right.
I mean, Dragon Ball just sort of changed Japan's storytelling, where people were like, oh, wow, you can take all the myths of the journey to the West and all this stuff and apply it in a modern way, add androids, you know, super beams and aliens and wishing stones, all things that really kind of are in One Piece as well, kind of, it turns out. So
right, there's certainly genre tropes and trappings. You could even draw a Star Wars line to some of this too, to a degree, crossing the threshold.
And it's developed over the years in a very Japanese way, as opposed to, you know, Western storytelling. So there's a lot of differences there, and how they evolved over time. So I think that's interesting. I do want to say the mangaka of Hunter x Hunter, who also did Yu Yu Hakusho, is also married to the creator of Sailor Moon, of course. So like
that's right.
All-star couple.
Imagine those children. Imagine the pressure those children have.
Well, they're certainly going to, like, Databayo believe it. Like, I'm sure they will, you know, be the most shonen of children.
Luffy really doesn't have a Databayo style catchphrase outside of "I will be the king of pirates," which is not as catchy, I will say.
It's kind of his general spirit, I guess. But he doesn't have a catchphrase. But he certainly is extremely memorable now that I've gotten into, you know, it's starting with a Netflix show. So,
well,
yeah.
I also just wanted to say, so obviously this is good timing to do this subject because it's about pirates, and as we said, it's pirate season now. Arg.
Here's the thing.
Yeah,
we're deep into pirate season on this podcast. I don't know if this is the first thing we talk about. That
we have another thing coming out next week.
Right, we're doing another
timeline-wise.
You might not be able to find it on a map, you could say.
We're using the time devil fruit. We're flying around here. But let me just put on record here to ask you guys, because I will say the appeal necessarily of this, and when I say it's my favorite thing of pop culture all time, like, not because it has pirates in it. Do you guys, like, Jacob, do you like pirates?
I do like pirates.
Okay.
I like... Here's the thing. You translate pirates to like a space setting, and now you're talking bounty hunters, you know? So you got space bounty hunters. You got bounty hunters in pirate world, obviously. But I like the world building of it, where it's just this world that's based around piracy, basically. It's all it's a naval seafaring world. You know, there's just a bunch of islands and whatnot, and it's all connected by this giant sea. And you have all these different like themed pirates, like you have the clown pirates and the chef pirates. And you know what? I like the world building. I think it's different than what obviously a lot of animes do. So I admire the creativity of it all.
And Mike, how about your love of the sea?
Well, you know, I think pirates got kind of played out at a certain point. They were very cool for a while. But
again, this is 1997, Mike.
No, this is before that. This is before they got played out, but I didn't get into this. So I think generally, I think pirates are neat. You
could say they were played out through like the 70s and 80s in Hollywood, where there was which we will talk about, of course, maybe in a couple months. But if you think about it, pirates are not like, I'm into anything that has a captain and a ship, basically. So it's not that far from like a Star Trek. Spaceships.
Well, not all Orions are pirates. Yeah, we've already done pirating.
That's the thing, though, Mike. That's true. They're not.
But some of them are.
Some pirates are good pirates. Some pirates are bad pirates. Yeah. Some law enforcement are good. Some are bad, is sort of the journey we take with this. But before we dive in, the last thing I want to point out about this story in particular, and what I appreciate about it, I guess, to give my final sell on this whole thing. Okay. Eiichiro Oda, like we said, because Jacob, you pointed out, you said, whoa, to even like the manga, I hear big things about that, to like that in particular. Let me give the sell of that, because I really don't consume the anime, which is a much easier thing to get through. And really the thing that put it on the map. When it became a cartoon, it truly did become the phenomenon that it is today. The anime is why it is so popular as it is.
Right.
But in particular, to shout out the manga, which manga is a black and white format. It is that way because it comes out weekly. Western comic books, we just did a Whatcha recently where I pitched a ton of Western comic books. Those are often monthly because they're these big, fat, colored, there's 15 ads for fucking cigarette companies and all this shit. And you're just like, wow, this is insane. And they cost you $5 or whatever.
Right.
Now, again, manga, and in this particular format, which is either published in this sort of collection or these bound smaller chapter books that you can buy of individual arcs, right, is relatively a lot cheaper, really. And Japan has an incredible recycling system, so it's what keeps them cheap as well.
Yeah, it's easy to mass produce when it's black and white, not color.
Yes.
Keeps costs down, just generally printing. But yeah, it's great to hear about the recycling. I hadn't thought about that because, manga's huge over there. It's big here too, but you're on a train, you want a book.
And you have one man making it, Eiichiro Oda, who has the Mark Wahlberg sleep schedule that we'll be talking about in a little bit here, next episode maybe. Yeah. But he has it outlined where he sleeps 2 hours a day, I believe. And he sees his children on the weekends, I believe, because he is the, again, sole force behind what is the Guinness World Book record holder for the longest single story ever published.
Wow.
Now, when you go, Colin, what are you talking about? When I go to my comic book store and they say they have Captain America issue 2000, isn't that more issues than a 1000 and I think like 664 or whatever One Piece is currently up to?
Right.
Isn't that more than that? Yes and no, because what they're doing is Captain America will get canceled after 10 issues. It will relaunch and start a new version called All New Captain America that will run for 20 issues. They will then realize, hey, it's the 50th anniversary of Timely Comics, that thing Captain America came from. Technically, since he appeared in that first one, we could say this is the 2000th issue of Captain America. And you go like, oh, okay, well, it's bullshit then.
Right.
None of that is real. One Piece is One Piece. It is one continuous story written by one madman who writes in a style, to just give one last plug for it and why I think it's so important to read. Here's how crazy I am. I look at what are called spoilers. Spoilers are the first reactions released of every chapter of One Piece. Those come out 2 days into the weekday. By the fourth weekday, you get what are called scans. Scans are the first released pictures of what's going to be the new One Piece chapter. The next day, you get scanlations. That is translated, characters inside these scans of the One Piece pages so that you can see them. Then you get the unofficial release by the end of the week. 3 days later, you get the official Shonen Jump release with the actual translation of what Eiichiro Oda intended for all the words to say and mean, westernized in a way in English that I can read, because obviously I do not read Japanese.
You don't.
Now you say, Colin, why put so much effort into that? Well, it is important because Eiichiro Oda-san, as a storyteller, is the most important storyteller of all time and in my life. He is essentially writing the Bible. He is writing an epic the size of the Bible that has all these intricate character details, all these payoffs that are thousands of issues apart, which translate to me in my life decades apart sometimes, guys. Sometimes he will give a conclusion to an answer of something that I first read when I was 10 or 11 years old. Okay. Is that understood? In the way that he does that using Japanese kanji, which kanji are the characters with which you write out sentences in Japanese. The incredible thing about Japanese kanji is the characters that they're next to influence the words that they create. It almost creates what I want to call puns although pun would imply that they're funny and not genius, intricate storytelling that is so delayed and so detailed. You get payoffs, like I said, for things that are 10 years apart, where a character can say something like, this is the calm before the storm, and 5 years later, you meet a character whose devil fruit means calm fruit, but the kanji with which it's literally written out, it means the calm before the storm. And you realize this guy got his entire gimmick from this guy.
That is
crazy.
And
and you say like, well, so what? So he's just paying off little things he wrote earlier. Again, the level of detail with which he's telling the story, and not to spoil something for you guys, but the content of the story itself and the way with which it resonates me, whatever happens in this small world that we saw of what's adapted in the live action Netflix show, what the story ends up being about is truly this like fascism, ruling the world, and like all of us are slaves to these systems that we can't escape. And you have to dream. You have to have a dream. You have to chase your dream, and to live it is so important. Like that has resonated with me. I kid you not, my whole life. And it's again, I just wanted to say that all to say
that's great.
This is the most important work of all time, and I demand you all treat it with the same level of respect.
That's why we say Oda-san. We put respect on his name.
Yes.
I think that's and it's extra impressive. You're talking about like comparing it to Western comics and stuff, but even to compare it to, again,
George R. R. Martin is the big one I think about, Jacob.
Oh, sure, yeah. I was gonna say, not to compare everything to Hunter x Hunter, the one that I know better, but I am going to. So, but that manga has been running semi-continuously since it started, but there's been a long hiatus because that's also done by a single creator. And he's had to take, health breaks sometimes because he's had health problems.
Oda takes all the time. He is basically killing himself with his sleeping schedule.
So Hunter will just go on hiatus for like years at a time, but it's technically been running it's never been canceled. But so to have, for One Piece to be continuously going for that amount of years is very impressive. And Hunter x Hunter also will pay off things like like who Goen's dad is and stuff like that, like 10 years from when it was introduced. So I think that's something that manga, like long running mangas, is just really impressive, where they're calling back. And like you said, George R. R. Martin, planned out so much ahead of time.
But he did. But Jacob, I really want you to compare it to the Western context, because I think he is the person you go, Oda-san does not sleep. He tells this continuous story. And yes, I don't know what One Piece is or means still. And I have been reading this for over 20 years of my life. I want you guys to understand that. And when my brother gets frustrated and stops reading One Piece when he's in his 20s, he goes, why would you continue? You're never going to get an answer. There is a difference between this versus George R. R. Martin, where I think you really are never going to get a satisfying answer for that man's work, because the ethic and, all of that, it's just all tied up with this other stuff. Whereas Oda-san, it's so different. To him, he is just truly seeing the forest for the trees, where he's like, well, of course, hundreds of people will die before this story's done. Yes, your lives will like come to an end, and that's not up to me. It's just like, I got to tell this story, man. And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Wild.
That's crazy.
No. But I again, this is something that's resonating with people. This show. We'll get into it, but I just will have to say up top here, like, I was really impressed with it. I immediately fell in love with these characters that I'd never known really deeply, like, and understanding the kind of the character motivations and that message of like dreaming. I can get cynical, and I'm like, damn, Luffy, I should fucking not be so down all the time. Like, that was resonating. There was some emotional moments, and then I was so into it that I started the anime, but then the anime was too intimidating. Wow. I watched up to Arlong Park, and then someone told me about One Piece, which is people who make a more condensed version. They cut out 45% of it, so there's no filler, and they'll take some of those things that happened 10 years. Yeah, and they'll also, if there's a 10-year-old reveal that makes sense to introduce earlier, they'll tie that in. It's been very great. So I've watched Arlong Park arc in 3 different ways: live action, regular anime, and One Piece, just to see what it's about. But I'm in love with this world now. So that's just to say that's how much the anime inspired me to continue down the journey.
Here's what I want to say. So you mentioned obviously Cowboy Bebop, Death Note, these live action adaptations have not had the best reputation, especially coming from Netflix, who did both of those. Now, I still haven't watched Cowboy Bebop yet, not because I have anything against it, just because I just never got around to it, and maybe I will check it out at some point. But it obviously did not get the same reaction that One Piece got upon release, and I think the fact that once I was reading online, fans of the show, the anime, generally reacting pretty positively to this, and I was like, that's surprising, because the really hardcore Cowboy Bebop fans online like hated that adaptation. Like you guys said, it wasn't that bad, like until the end, right? But and I know Cowboy Bebop the anime a lot better than One Piece, obviously, and it's a 26 episodes, one season. Like that's kind of why I like it, because it's the brevity, and it's this finished piece that's like a work of art. Like it's so condensed. There's no filler. So maybe that's a little harder to do, but the fact that they pulled this off and everyone seems to like either think it's pretty good or loves it. I mean, that's a huge success for Netflix. And I think for one thing, it all comes down to the casting, because I thought the casting was great across the board, but especially this kid that they get to play Luffy. Like if you mess that up, like the whole thing doesn't work. If you get a bad actor or someone who can't do Luffy right, like the whole thing falls apart. So I got to hand it to this kid. I don't remember his name. I got to look it up.
Inaki Godoy.
Let's do our cast here, because I think it's really important. All these characters have different like nationalities, I guess, in the manga and the anime. So they were kind of casting with that in mind, from what I understand.
So Oda-san does these things at the end of sort of the biannual or maybe even quarterly or something like that. He does these things called SBSs at the back of the books, where he will answer fans' questions. And I mean, again, going since 1997, fans have written some questions, and they have gotten down to like, who farts the most on the ship? And he's like, well, here's the answer for you.
Great question.
The worst.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
To saying like what if it was the real world, what would the nationalities of these people be? And I believe he said Luffy would be Brazilian, Sanji would be French. He threw these things out where they didn't even necessarily go with them. Inaki Godoy, I believe, is a Mexican-American man. But Jacob, I couldn't agree with you more. The casting is phenomenal across the board on this thing. I think it's really why it works.
Yep.
They really nailed it. Not only the look of the characters, but all the actors really nail kind of the personification of these characters. And I think like Zoro's great, Nami's great, like they're all great. Actually, by the way, did you know, fun fact, Zoro, the guy who plays Zoro, Mackenyu is Sonny Chiba's son.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Sonny Chiba, who sadly passed away from COVID, I think a couple years ago.
Right.
Sonny Chiba, of course,
fighter.
Legend. Yes. He was the Street Fighter Mike. I mean, he was the
martial arts legend
of cinema.
GI Samurai. A lot of
Mackenyu. I have dove into his work because honestly, I think he's the kid who maybe read the book the most, because his posing down for Zoro is every scene he's like literally pulling him from the page. But I looked it up. He plays Scar in the Netflix, another anime live action adaptation of Full Metal Alchemist. And he also plays Saint Seiyu in the Zodiac Knights movie that just came out. So a lot of adapted anime stuff. Good for him.
Yeah, I was looking into it. I see he has somewhat of a maybe a huge star, but somewhat of a star in Japan. He's been in a lot of Japanese language stuff. Yeah, he nailed his personality. I thought, the crew was all great. Sanji, they nailed his kind of Skyler, so they're all good. I don't think there's a weak link.
I think Emily Rudd as Nami is maybe the best performance for me. I don't know about you guys.
There's a lot
she's
of
very
nuance with her
too.
arc.
Yeah,
she has to do a lot of subtle work, especially being more familiar now with these arcs, having seen them 3 times, and I am really impressed with what she's able to do. And there's key moments to the anime and stuff. And I guess we're gonna end up spoiling scenes from this. This is the intro arc. It's 8 episodes. Go watch it. We're telling you we love it. Go do that and come back. But
I think the
ensemble carries it.
Yeah, I think Usopp may be the least fleshed out this season as characters. Like, this is the other thing I like, the pacing of the story. And maybe, Mike, from having watched the anime, the way they kind of pace it with the backstories kind of slowly coming out over the season of each of these characters, I thought that really added to it. Like they all had young versions of themselves. So you see where kind of each character came from and how they started. I think Usopp was the least fleshed out this season. Maybe he'll get more fleshed out in another season.
With that.
Yeah.
I would also say Sanji's child actor was the best child actor.
Sanji's child actor was
the
best. Yeah. But I watched the One Piece, and they're doing that a lot too. In the original run of the show, when I watched it, there's not as much of the flashbacks coming in because I don't think these came till later. Not always. So in the One Piece, we're getting the flash. It feels more like watching a Netflix show.
So they're kind of reorganizing it to make it fit an 8-episode season better and make the story fit that
and these
medium.
arcs are, I'm on like episode 70 and I'm still at the Arlong Park. Like, we just got the hat moment.
Filler. Yeah.
Well, this is the no filler version, but it's like they stretch the arcs out. But I think for an introduction, as Colin was alluding to, this is the best way to get somebody into the world of One Piece because it's 8 episodes that are kind of the core arcs, and then you just get more of that. So great pacing, I think, too.
And just to say my initial reaction, a lot like you, Mike, I thought it was great. And like I said, I was very skeptical up front. I was not planning to watch this show.
You said you were not going to watch it.
Yeah, I had no intention to watch it, just like I didn't watch Cowboy Bebop. But then seeing the reaction and obviously knowing that we're going to do this, Colin, you convinced me to watch it. And I actually watched the first episode of Ahsoka, another show that came out, started airing around the same time.
A little bit of a watch chat. We kind of mentioned it,
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about.
Right.
Maybe. So I watched the first episode of Ahsoka, kind of was zoning in and out of caring just because I'm not a Rebels guy. I'm not really a Clone Wars much of a guy. So I was like, I don't know, these characters, they're just not selling it for me. Like I'm not getting invested in this first episode. That's all I've seen so far. I'll keep watching it, obviously. But after that, I put on the first episode of One Piece. And the comparison there was just like, it just blew me away how much it sucked me into these characters, invested me in them, in this world. And I was like immediately hooked after that first episode.
Wow.
And I thought it did a great job of like hooking you into this world.
And both are large commitments of time if you wanted to get more familiar. But one thing is doing a much better job of introducing the unfamiliar to these characters. It's clearly a superior intro to like, fringe media.
And I knew very little about the Ahsoka characters, and I knew very little about One Piece, and yet one of those got me much more invested in wanting to come back and see more. So great job hooking and great job with the casting, because again, that kid nails it. Inaki Godoy, and he really nails the enthusiasm, the optimism of Luffy. And I was like, man, this kid, like, I love this guy. I would follow this guy.
Yeah, no,
a character that can be really annoying. He's very aloof, Luffy. He's very absent-minded. He really does represent the drive of your passion and your dreams. As the show goes on, he gets fleshed out a lot more to have more openness and love for his crewmates. They built that up pretty early and let Inaki like sort of act that out more. Thought that was a great change.
Yeah. And again, not just the casting. Like we're going to get in the episodes probably right after we gush about everything real quick, but the costume design, the choreography, the cinematography, the music, like the sets, like everything about this, the special effects makeup, like, because there's some goofy stuff in the anime and they are really realizing it in a great and fantastical way. It still feels like the anime, like energy, just grounded enough, but still kind of otherworldly. I just can't believe it.
That's what also the other thing I was skeptical about is like, how are they going to translate this to live action? Like, I still believe truly that some things are just better in like animation can do things that live action can't.
100%.
And you can try your best to adapt it, but it's always going to be better in animation, certain things. But I was like, how are they going to do this? You have different weird body proportions, fishmen, all kinds of weird stuff. I was like, how are they going to?
We got a clown that's body flies apart. How are we going to do this? A guy on a unicycle?
A flying reindeer man thing.
Beyond that, because this is a silly world where truly anything can happen, where Oda is truly inspired by anybody, where you can go, oh, these two characters are Vincent and Julian from Pulp Fiction. Like literally you're just like making them those two characters. And that character's a talking lion. Like you're like, okay, that is the dichotomy we're dealing with. Now you guys are harping on like the effects, the practical stuff, building ships, putting on that prosthetic makeup. Yes, absolutely. What I want to shout out and what I cannot believe is you imagine somebody like Jeff Ward, who plays Buggy the Clown in this, and we'll get through it. We'll get to this point.
Yep.
But giving a speech to a room full of people in makeup where he has to say, "You stole my map, which I'm going to use to go to the Grand Line so I can get the One Piece." And he's saying it with a fucking straight face. He's acting it. He does not seem embarrassed by anything he's doing. It takes me back to the thing I wanted to start out saying in this podcast about this material, is that the earnestness and commitment that these people have to being in this goofy world is why I at home and going like, "Oh, thank God it's working. Oh my God, it's like it's actually working."
And they clearly wanted to do it justice. And we've seen so many adaptations where they're like, well, if we just change all these things that makes it unique, then maybe people like the Dragon Ball movie and like all these movies that we got in like the 2000s were like, if we just make it more westernized for mainstream audiences, people will like it.
Well, Goku wants to drive a motorcycle and date a girl. That's what we all know about Goku. And you're like, wow, that's what we're starting with.
I don't even want to be on Earth.
Yeah,
but no, they completely buy into the world and the look of this show, and they did their best to adapt it to live action. I think it is the most successful live action adaptation that I've seen anyways.
Just as a product, I think the earnestness with which it's all being approached from every angle. You see the cast, they seem to be having so much fun, portraying these characters. Sanji did cooking school and doing capoeira. Everybody's doing combat training. It's like Zoro had a custom sword blade that he could actually hold in his mouth. Like all this crazy stuff.
Mike, in the writing, they're figuring out stuff where it's like, look, like Burrow's super speed is going to look how it is because that's so anime. And let me tell you something. A lot of these characters are going to get super speed at a certain point. Buckle up. That effect is going to be used a lot.
Great.
Then you've got other things where it's like, okay, every one of these fights, every 2 seconds, they say the moves they're doing. What can we do? What can we do? Okay, how about this? Luffy says all the best fighters shout out their finishing move. And we're getting one per episode and that's it. And you go, Colin, that is kind of a compromise. But to Jacob, to what you said about it, it's not embarrassed. It's it's finding those compromises in that stuff to not just be anime influenced, but to do this tightrope walk they have to do to be like, we are live action. We are adapting something, though.
Yeah. And I like Sanji even being like, he does this finishing move and he says all the best, but he reiterates it. It's like
next season Zoro's gonna say it and somebody's gonna hear him and he's gonna be so mad about it.
But Luffy doing that fits his character so well because he just has this kind of childlike naivete about things, but he also he's very inspiring because he believes in you so hard that you just end up believing in yourself. And that's kind of what I love about him is that he believes in these characters when they don't even believe in themselves. And he's like the ultimate supporting character of just being like, you're part of my crew. Like, I believe in you, no matter what.
If you're on this ship, your dream is on this ship and I will protect it. Yeah.
In a Dragon Ball or in a Naruto, these fights end and people very often either kill each other or they're just like, and that was it and I won. The whole point of fights in One Piece are battles of willpower, where it is my dream stacked against your dream, whose will come out. And I'll say the other thing, what I like about it is Luffy loses all the time. It is not this chosen one hero story. If you read this thing and go with it, you will see this loss of steam or one person being rallied around by their crew where they're like, no, we believe in this guy. Or believe it or not, let me say something. It's kind of a big spoiler, but Buggy might be the guy closest to winning this thing at where I'm at this moment. So as a guy who gets through shit, I'm all in on Buggy. So.
Yeah, that's great. He did
and I know
big impression on me.
These characters go through these kind of long arcs where they really do change over time. And I know even a little bit about Kobe and Helmeppo even have a lot of character growth and are totally different characters years down the line. Kobe changes as a character a lot and stuff. Learning under Garp and whatnot. But two things I wanted to say just before we jump into the episode and whatnot.
I'm so happy, guys. Can I just say
too,
that?
man.
Please go right ahead, man. It's infectious.
One thing about the show and maybe part of why it works so well is because I did read that Oda-san has sort of a creative control where if there's anything he doesn't like, he can kind of veto it and say,
kill power.
I don't like that. And that is a really smart idea because because obviously he's the creator, he knows what it should be like, so getting his opinion is a smart thing to do. And the other thing I just want to say is the fight choreography and the camera work during the fights I thought was excellent. And like even like from the first episode, every fight that they got in, I was like, this is awesome. The camera's moving all around. Excellent choreography, like I said. Like it just all really works for me. So
yeah. And so the transition into the episodes, you know, he had that input, like Jacob said, and they're even creating more things for the show where they were like, "Hey, Oda-san, like, is there electricity here?" And he's like, "I never thought about it." And he's like, "I have a different thing that does a different electricity later, but so just don't call it that, and you can have some electric lighting." Like this little stuff that you would never think about in an anime. And like, okay, I guess there's electricity in live action, which they used to great effect. But I say let's jump into it. Let's all aboard here, and we'll just start running through these 8 wonderful episodes of the One Piece live action adaptation. Gomu Gomu transition. That is his catchphrase, just saying a move. That's kind of
that
his
is
thing.
True. You're right. Yep.
Gum Gum Pistol.
I like that even when he's performing it, Inaki, he's giving it a little bit of a gum, like it's a little bit of the U that would be in the Japanese pronunciation just to push it in that direction, but you know, they're crushing.
The lady who does it is so famous at this point, and you can watch it with a dub of all their voices.
That's
crazy.
incredible.
Oh, sure.
Yep, and they met in real life. It was very cute and sweet. And
gave each other a bunch of straw hats. That's all anybody does with these things. Is like present each other with straw hats. You're like, yeah, great. Sure.
Well, that's his treasure. But yeah. So,
sure.
But we're back. We're Straw Hat podcast hosts. Talking
that's
about
right.
The show.
Where
would you guys be on this crew? What would you, Jacob? You would want to cook for us?
I would want to be some kind of no. Mike's the cook, obviously. He's
obviously.
Blackleg.
I would be. I assume some kind of bounty hunter that's doing cool things.
I would be a slave.
Oh
yes. But I was. So you were talking about the voice of Luffy in the anime is a woman, right? You're saying?
Yes.
That doesn't surprise me because I
was like the Pikachu
Bart Simpson action.
Like Ash though, right? Ash was voiced by a woman because I thought when I was watching,
I said Pikachu.
I watched some of the anime as well, and I was like, Luffy's voice sounds a lot like Ash from Pokemon, just with kind of more of an edge to it. So I was like, that's interesting. But yeah, One Piece.
Here we go.
Kind of the go-to for shonen animes. Here we go. Episode 1, which adapts. We should say this whole thing is what they call the East Blue Saga. Again, this thing's been going on for 1 billion years. There's so many different chapters. They pretty much condense everything to get down to this first part, where it is a collection of people on a quest to get a map to something called the Grand Line, which is an entry point into this larger world of pirating. So what we're going to see for the most part to start out here is a series of smaller islands that are in a relatively peaceful area, but are tortured or terrorized by roving gangs of pirates. As Jacob said, this is all open sea, very naval battle-esque, and is protected by a group of Marines, quote unquote, which are really sort of the navy of this world that go around and enact justice.
The peacekeepers of the seas. But as Colin said, there's good and bad there's heroes on both sides, to quote the Star Wars crawl.
That's right.
Well,
I
think
it's kind of the whole thing. It's kind of just the bare minimum intro to all the important players, all the main characters of the crew, and then they set you up for and that's just the beginning. Like it's a great intro. There's really good stuff in all these episodes, but it is just it's your primer of this is One Piece. This is
the way that you run into each character, I think it's really well done. I think Luffy, like you said, there's good pirates and bad pirates. I think there's mostly bad pirates, but Luffy just has this different idea of what a pirate is. Maybe not even really a pirate. He's not doing that many piratey things, but he's just so convinced about being the king of the pirates that he's like, I will be the king of the pirates. So he's getting a ship, he's getting a crew. Yeah.
No, that's what's great about Luffy's character. So, in episode 1, he meets Kobe, and he gets on the ship, and he's having these altercations. It's just funny to see him he has this childlike, what we would think pirate of Jack Sparrow. It's like, you just have fun. I'm not stealing from people.
Right.
I'm just having fun. I'm a pirate. I'm just having fun on the ocean, right? And,
you see the traditional. You have Alvida, captain of the Love Pirates. She is raiding a pirate ship. That is our traditional images. Yo ho ho ho. Pirate's life for me. If you're a random boat, we'll pillage you. We'll rape you. We'll get all your stuff. Yeah, exactly. We'll burn it all down. But what we know from watching this show and getting the backstory is that you can be very influenced by the people in your life. Luffy was lucky in that he had a mentor in Shanks, who was a quote unquote good pirate. We see him as a man who's really much more convivial and easygoing, and really sees pirating as a way to party.
Yeah, he's kind of like a father figure to Luffy growing up. We don't know who his real father is. I guess they don't really say that. We know his grandfather, but we don't know his father.
Right. But yeah, you see Shanks, like someone insults him in the bar here, and then he doesn't fight back because he's like, violence isn't the answer. Like, he's chill about it. Like, he knows he's a little more world wise, and Luffy's a little more hot tempered at that age. And he's like, why didn't you stand up to me? He has some learning to do. But the Shanks stuff works really well. But I love the idea that, because in the world, everybody doesn't like pirates. So Luffy's going around proudly saying, we're pirates, and they're like, we hate you. But and
he doesn't even realize, like, he's almost trying to change the public opinion of pirates by just being a good pirate, because to him being a pirate means more about freedom, individuality, the ability to chasing follow your dream, whatever that may be. And even when the first character he essentially meets is Kobe, who doesn't even join his crew, but he's like, what's your dream? And then Kobe's like, my dream is to be a Marine. And he's like, all right, you're cool, you're my friend now because I've met you and we've bonded. I'm going to make your dream come true, basically.
Even if they are clashing ideologies, it is important to say, you want something, therefore we must facilitate to each other figuring out how to get that thing.
That line when it's like, well, guess if we might be enemies next time we see each other, but good luck. Like, you do your dream, like, no hard feelings. There's something very sweet about it. Like, it's endearing, it's heartfelt.
It's really the core of the storytelling. A very long time from now in the manga, someone will say to Luffy, what do you think? Tell me what you mean when you say you want to be king of the pirates. And he will explain that, like you said, Mike, it is someone who has the freedom to do whatever they want and to also follow their dream.
Yeah, that's great.
Now, let's point out Luffy's dream to be king of the pirates is to find something called the One Piece. Let's rewind real quick. The real intro to our show here is veteran actor Ian McShane, who maybe we'll talk about in a pirating film at a certain point. Maybe he plays a famous pirate that might show up in One Piece at some point, the pirate he plays.
Right.
But he explains that Gold Roger, the quote-unquote king of pirates, is about to be executed, and he gives out his final death proclamation, which is to say, in the book and in the anime, somebody in the audience says, hey, where's your treasure? And that fan guy is called, like, Start D Show or something like that. Nice. He is not in this. But instead, Gold Roger kind of just gives out his explanation that all of his treasure, all of his fame and fortune and power and all of that has been consolidated into something he calls One Piece. It is out there. Go out, get it. If you do that, you could be king of pirates too. And what it does is it starts the quote-unquote great pirate age. I'm just going to keep saying quote-unquote, I guess.
Yeah.
But pushes forward the want and dreams and desires of some of these people. We will see, as this goes on, the clash of a world where people go, you believe in that thing? Why would you? Which is essentially to say to someone, why do you want something? Why do you desire something? Why do you have a dream? And it really is Luffy coming back to all of them to say, well, of course I believe in One Piece. And yes, I will be the one who gets it.
Yep. Every time. And then again, that competition of like, that's a stupid reason to want to do something. Like Luffy will just be like, you are not, you have no conviction. I'm going to be the pirate king because you are not.
Yeah, then you'll lose.
And you do lose to him, It happens.
And it is the battle of willpower that I said earlier, of just wanting something more.
When he says, I will find the One Piece and I will become the king of the pirates, he truly believes it when he says it, probably more than anyone's ever believed anything, even if it sounds very unlikely that this random guy who has no experience or background as a pirate all of a sudden is going to become the king of the pirates, but he believes it so hard that it probably will come true by the end of it.
And as an audience member, I believe it too. And Jacob, sometimes other characters have off-screen conversations with other characters where they're like, why did you do that thing? And he's like, well, I did it because this guy told me he wants to be king of the pirates. And I just know he believes it so much that I did too. I mean, we get Zoro saying that in this show.
Well, that's basically what this first season is just him going around inspiring different people every episode and slowly adding to his crew where he's just like, hey, he meets Zoro. He's like, you seem cool. You're like a good fighter. I like you. You should join my crew. And then even they're hesitant to join his crew at first, but he's so like insistent that they join.
Why
his
would
crew
I do that? That's
you have
the
nobody else
dumbest
on your
idea
crew.
ever.
What do you don't have a boat.
Like, you're an idiot. You're a fool.
We're gonna start a band, man. It's like, get away from me. Get away.
You'd be a great
and
singer.
Literally, when he's saying this, he does not have a boat yet. He has nothing. He's just
Zoro
this
is
skinny
in prison.
Kid. Yeah.
No, so we get the truncated kind of gathering of the core three in the first couple episodes with Nami and Zoro. That's, taking things from the anime and pushing them together, kind of putting them in the same town at the same time. But again, it's more efficient, I think, and I think it's a great way to do it. So
we get Axian Morgan. I mean, what do you guys think of these prosthetics? Like, what do you think of the look of these people?
They look fucking awesome, man. Like Axian,
it looks pretty good.
It works, and the choreography was blowing me away. And I went and looked at the the drawing of the manga and the anime. I'm like, yeah, dude, what more do you want?
Pretty close.
It's been making me think about again, how would like a Hunter x Hunter adaptation live action work? Because that's another. There's a lot of similarities there, where there's a lot of weird like half animal people. There's they have Nen powers instead of like devil fruit powers, where they all have different special abilities and stuff.
Right.
I'm like, how would this translate to live action? So I've been thinking about that, and it's like, well, if they can do it with One Piece, they can really do it with any show now. Like nothing, as long as you have the effects budget and the sets and the costumes and everything.
Well, Hey, let's talk about that, because you said devil fruit powers. We need to point out that when Luffy started out on this journey, something he took from Shanks was his prized possession. It's called the Gum Gum fruit. It's the first devil fruit we're shown in this universe, which is this outlet for these characters to have incredible, fantastic powers. Oda-san said, if I'm going to create this character who's inspired by Goku, literally he's always going to wear red and orange all the time. That's he has dark hair. He's like, literally he's sitting down going like, how can I make Goku? And he's going to have to fight. I don't want it to be serious like Dragon Ball. I want it to be funny. I want people to laugh when he uses his powers. I think stretching is silly. He's Mr. Fantastic. He's Kamala Khan. He's any other asshole who has stretchy powers, which are never really my favorite. Alas, sure, all these great people. But that's how do we think the special effects end up looking? Because we get some stuff. We get a Gum Gum pistol, a stretch fist. We get a Gum Gum balloon, which is the inflated body. We get a bell, which is the thrown back head. Mike, how do you think the Gum Gum powers look?
We get Gum Gum Cannon as well. I think they look wonderful. And that they're used at different spots. Again, having watched the show, like the first Gum Gum Fusan is not in the context it is in the show. But like they use it great in the show. And I like that they're kind of, you get one, like it's not oversaturated, because a Saturday cartoon, like you need a power, like everything.
Oh, it's every 5 minutes.
Yeah. So this,
we're using these abilities. Yeah.
They're using them to great effect. And I think they look awesome. They're very fun and imaginative. And maybe, including what I've seen in the anime, probably the most tolerable and cool, stretchy powered character, like for sure. Like with the variety of things that they do so far, probably the best stretchy character.
Hard to pull off. Jacob, do you remember the elongated man on Flash? I mean, how does he hold up to that?
Well, I mean, probably a lot better, comparing the budget of CW's The Flash.
8 episodes versus like 24 or something. Yeah,
They really had to stretch that budget sometimes. But I was thinking like they've been trying to do Mr. Fantastic. They've been trying to do a good Fantastic Four in movies for years and still have not. And then, they showed you how simple that Mr. Fantastic powers could be. I thought it was great.
It's great. And I think I like I don't know, I'm reading too much into it, but the idea that like he's a kid and he's, kids bounce back from everything. There's like a flexibility, like a resilience to rubber, kids bounce back, like that kind of idea. Like Luffy's going to get back up every time because he's the rubber man.
It fits his character. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
And it gives him the ability to face these super powered or very powerful different people, even like Arlong, who's like this shark man guy,
sawfish man,
and he can kind of face off because he can't really get hurt as well because he's rubber and stuff, so it just gives him the ability to
man.
I'll
just point out real quick, the first episode is called Romance Dawn. Romance Dawn is the pilot of One Piece. It was the first comic book that he drew, submitted to Shonen Jump. They run it as sort of a pilot program. Totally different. The pirate that wears the straw hat that inspires him is Garp. who sets him on his journey, his grandfather, after giving him the power of the gum fruit from the gum grove, where anybody can have rubber powers. Now, again, that's something we're never going to see anybody else have this particular devil fruit going forward in One Piece. So just a little different there.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, and again, that's how they organize things, at least on the One Piece. Like the first set is the Romance Dawn, and then Syrup Village is the next thing we see in this show. They skip a little bit, and then Barati happens in Arlong Park, and some Garp stuff at the end, basically. So those are the kind of the main four that we're doing here. Yeah,
Orange Town has really changed to go to the buggy stuff. But let's meet Zoro first. So let's meet Mackenyu, who we said Alvida has sort of brought up and said, "Are you Roronoa Zoro, the pirate hunter? We're setting up this bounty hunter in this world in episode 1, the first part, who is unstoppable." We then meet him. And I believe the change in this is we see a little bit of why he's tied up. When you meet him in the manga, he is already tied up for these sort of crimes he's committed, which is like hunting a royal deer or something like that. And since Helmeppo is the son of a captain, he's arrested, I believe is how it goes, right, originally?
Yeah, but you don't see like the altercation in the bar like we do. Like there is a scene where the girl brings him onigiri, but that's when he's tied to the post. That happens in the bar. So we're like streamlining things to where Nami can see that and get inspired. So I like the way the show is doing that. But yeah, you see that he messes with Helmeppo and cuts his hair. I like that he had nice hair, and then he gets the bowl cut because he just has the bowl cut the whole time.
Yes,
nice
that's what
background.
his look is in the comics.
Beautiful.
Now we get Mackenyu, who has this green hair, Mosshead, as Sanji will constantly call him. He's Roronoa Zoro. He is the fan favorite character. He is the sexy bad boy of the One Piece world. Even then,
I'm not surprised.
Oda-san, who's like, I just want little boys to laugh and find this very goofy. The more they like it, the more I will make it goofy. He has the 3-sword samurai style, where he's, of course, holding one of the swords in his mouth with his teeth. It's ridiculous. But how do we feel this is being pulled off?
I think it's great.
I think it works for me. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
And again,
completely.
he has green hair because, his character in the anime has green hair. Nami has orange hair, and they stick to those, shades of hair, and it doesn't seem weird or out of place in this world.
And all their costumes are like direct references to costumes from the manga and the anime, like the different clothes and textiles and stuff.
And they don't just stick to one outfit. They have different outfits that they kind of cycle through, but they're all different outfits that their characters have worn in the manga and in the anime.
So specifically, they do these things called color spreads, which are part of the, let's say again, quarterlies or annuals or whatever. You will get official color drawn front pages for the comic book. That's the first time where you'll see a lot of where Oda will confirm, Zoro has green hair and stuff like that, because again, it is a black and white manga.
Right.
The outfits that they wear. One Piece is unique in the fact that almost every arc they do change clothes. Not as much as this show does. The outfits they chose are all the official outfits from those color works. So it's just like little Easter eggs that people would put in. And you've got Usopp wearing his pirate hat, like the tri-corner hat or all this stuff. Where you just go like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I love everything. It's definitely crafted with love, right? All of it, And so we get Zoro, who's pirate hunter, Luffy recruits him. Nami hates pirates, wants to steal from pirates to get money. So she's a hard sell on the crew thing. So, we're getting to meet her.
And this really is our core trio, as you were saying, Mike, how they kind of condense it. That is how it is in the manga. However, I kind of feel the one lesson they did take from the live action Cowboy Bebop is this triangle of characterization where you can have aloof lead, stern supporting character,
Spike, Jet, and Faye Valentine.
Beautiful, and then beautiful girl who's part of the crew, but kind of
stuff.
in, kind of out.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So we might talk about that more in Uncharted.
So that's our core three. Yeah. Mission Impossible.
With Nami, I think, and with the show in general, they also kind of tone down some of the, let's say, fan service aspects where I've seen a lot of Nami with like bikini tops and stuff, and like they kind of go away from maybe that.
He does a move literally called Love Punch.
Legally, but
sure. But she does a move literally called Love Punch, where she will show her top to people and charge them for money. Like, because that is what she's about. She just wants money. She is a sexless being, right? So
it's all about the money, literally, and we'll find out why. But that's kind of this main start. We get our main three together, and then I guess like devil fruit. We kind of get our first villain up here. We get introduced to Buggy. I think this is great.
Well, once we leave the Marine base, we fight all these people.
Right.
Yes, they head to Orange Town, which we see the effects of a place that is overrun by pirates. We do get that contrast of this is what an evil pirate looks like. And we meet Jeff Ward as Buggy the Clown, the leader of the Big Top Pirates. A very reduced cast. We're supposed to get all these other characters that do all these other fights and stuff too. Whatever.
Beast Tamer guy. I'm okay losing it. Yeah.
We get our second devil fruit here, the Chop Chop fruit. What do you think of these effects? This is wild, in my opinion.
Yeah. I thought that was it's pretty good. I don't know how else you would do it, and like maybe it could have been better with even a bigger budget, but I thought it looked okay.
I love it. It's goofy. It's just in fantasy enough that it's like, okay, it's just flesh toned connection, like whatever. Like we don't need to see bone or what. I don't need to think about it. It just comes apart and goes back together. That's fine.
Definitely don't need to think about it. It looks good whenever Zoro's actually cutting him, and you're seeing active splitting, and that looked very cool. And I'll say this: later in the season, when they're keeping Buggy around as a character, just shooting him practical, where it's like a head poking out of a table or something. That's great. That's an old school effect. Use the shit out of that. I'm fine with that every time.
And this actor is crushing it.
Like, he's crushing it.
In the most absurd lines, like you said. Like, he's selling it very well.
And I like later in the show, they're keeping him in this bag, his head, right? And then he finally convinces him to put his head back on his body because he'll help them. And then he's like, see you later. I'm out of here.
You got later. Gives him the devil deuce and runs away.
Yeah.
And these are big changes because you're never supposed to see Buggy again after he leaves that first time till another arc
much later.
But to incorporate him and say, you know what, we'll take this little bit of what you call in the manga a cover story, which is sometimes Oda will give you these title pages where it's like, what has Buggy been up to? Here's something Buggy's been doing, which is him going on an adventure to get his body parts back. They're like, you know what? We've got Jeff Ward for the day. Fucking put him in the makeup.
Yeah,
this is
right.
Great.
And they do have sort of wonderful cast, right? But they, you're seeing even Shank's crew. I know they're all characters from that we know. So you're seeing at least somewhat of a introduction to them, and then you're even seeing like Easter eggs of like the wanted posters are different villains or other pirate captains.
Some of them are wild choices. Like you wouldn't get to them for a decade if you did this show.
And that's what's great is it's seeding all this stuff where it's like, just hop into the source material. Like even this battle with Buggy here, like there's references to they fight him several times. Like there's several altercations that happen between them, and like they're kind of pulling from those. And even the solution they find, maybe it's later, but like getting his feet and stuff, trapping him in all the boxes, like brilliant. But also that wasn't in the manga, so I'm like, that's a cool way to do it. But then when I found out the unicycle guy had a much more expanded role in the anime, I was like, damn. Because when he rolls into that room and just hops off without missing a step, it's perfect stride. I'm like, dude, that's so fucking funny.
But then, Mike, you have
about it.
Well, yes, but then you have people like the mayor, who's kind of the spokespeople for the characters, trapped for Buggy's performance.
They're in prison to clap for him,
But he's a huge character in the manga where he specifically has a weird haircut and stuff. And to be that extra actor who, like, you're only going to get 2 lines, but we'll be honest with you. You have to look like this because it's so important to the 5 or 6 weirdos out there who are going to critique this thing. That is an amazing level of commitment.
As soon as I
get on the unicycle, just get him on the unicycle.
Yeah, because it's so bizarre. I assumed it was a thing, and then when I saw it, I'm like, this is incredible. Yeah. So I love all these guys, and we get Zoro being cool, not scared of knives and stuff. It's great. It's great. So I love the buggy stuff. My favorite stuff though is the next 2, the Black Cat Pirates, the Usopp stuff. Maybe not particularly that character, but I love these episodes. And what the show is doing that the anime doesn't is they have a lot more scenes at night. Everything in the anime is mostly broad daylight, so things are a lot moodier. And I do like the use of night shots and night scenes, and I think that really benefits this upcoming arc with Usopp.
It's a great point because it's a little bit more of a mystery. They change it into this locked into a house panic room style story, opposed to it's very different in the manga.
Yeah,
I like how it's
hypnotist guy's gone, which I think this is better.
Django,
this is more streamlined.
Yeah.
I like how
it's more believable.
Django's
the
fun
is
though.
Paced where it's very episodic to start, where they're getting in these different episodic adventures with Buggy, then with this whole mansion and the butler and everything, and then by the end of it, it kind of all comes together with Arlong being a reoccurring villain who comes back, and it's kind of tied up. And
very smart to see that together.
Yeah, but the way they introduce it, they slowly kind of introduce you into the world. Yeah.
Well, in a funny way to call it out, when Luffy literally in that fight goes like, I beat up a butler, I beat up a clown, I can definitely beat up you. And you're like, it has kind of been a weird week for you.
Yeah.
Just kind of like fighting all these psychopaths, basically.
But yeah. So the Usopp thing is he's the boy who cried wolf. You know, he runs through the town all the time saying there's pirates, there's never pirates, and then when they are, you're screwed, right? So and he tries to take care of Kaya. She's kind of been locked away. She's very sickly. Her parents died a year ago. She lives with her butler. And then it's this kind of mystery of what's going on with the butler. Spoiler, he's the enemy.
Dun dun dun. The butler did it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Biggest change here. Jacob Romero Gibson stars as Usopp. Not only is this the biggest storyline change, biggest physical change, the weird thing in this world, he's not only the boy who cried wolf, Mike, he's a liar, aka he's Pinocchio. He has a super elongated nose. That is a direct reference to he is a liar. Now, he is a sniper that is so talented because he uses his long nose as a crosshair. It is truly a part of his feature that they just rightly go like, look, we're not going to have this nice young man. Like he just wouldn't need a dumbass prosthetic like that.
We did the end of
so something I'm happy about.
Call an audible here. Yeah. No, I think that's great too. Because his lies, he tells fantastic stories too, and that's what cheers up Kaya. Like he uses his ability to his imagination. So he's a liar, but there's a good side to it too. You know what I mean? So anyway.
Yeah.
Every word that familiar comes out with is a story.
With Usopp from what he looks like in the anime. So I was like, that's another thing. How are they going to do this in live action? But I like this actor, and I like
perfect middle ground.
Yeah, they did it great.
Yeah,
I thought the Kai actress was really good too, and they kind of tie in stuff that you see much later in the book, where she's like, "I'm going to become a doctor." Where I was like, "Oh wow, they're doing that now. This is great."
Wow, I haven't even gotten to that in my watch through. That's great. Yeah. What I love about this is it's at night. I like the reveal of the Black Cat pirates, and that they want to get the fortune. You know, that's accurate, and he has these long claws.
Bunchy.
It feels like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fight to me.
Yeah,
sure.
The butler is very anime looking. Like his whole design is just very anime.
But anime looking again, guys. The super speed special effect. His name is Captain Kuro. To show that he's full of shit and a liar, he literally has spirals of shit on his suit coats on the side. Right, that's what those are supposed to indicate. He has these huge knife fingers, and he's doing the most Shakespearean dialogue. And again, I'm with you, Mike, where I'm like, the guy's kind of killing it who's doing it. And he's killing like a guy who like kind of looks like a lamb, and you're like not asking questions about that either. Yeah. You're like, okay.
No, all the actors in this, they're like, all right, you're gonna have to act like you're an anime character, basically. Like the guy that plays Garp, it's like you're gonna wear like a little dog hat.
You're gonna wear
they gave him the dog hat. Right.
Yeah.
No, but Kuro, I just want to highlight, because when I saw it live action, I'm like, in the anime, I'm like, it's all in the day. I really like the way the live action did, but there's a thing in the anime where he pushes up his glasses, if you're watching YouTube, on the side like that. And then when it's revealed that he has claws, and he pushes his hand.
He doesn't want to cut his face.
No, but even when he's not wearing the claws, he does that. That's like a tell. And then I was like, did they do that in the live action before they reveal it? And they fucking do. And like, that's what I mean. Like that little stuff that they're getting right. I just can't get enough of it.
Also, I would love to join the Black Cat. If I was going to join any pirates, I would want to join the Black Cat Pirates, so I could wear little cat ears and be a little cat boy.
And they all do.
I don't know.
But
it's really built up. Well, that's a great question. Probably Shanks, because you'd be really protected and just have a good time.
Yeah. I want to be a kitty cat.
The safest bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I love this arc. So they eventually save the day. You know, she gets to keep her fortune. They get their boat. This is where we get our boat now.
They get their ship. They get
Kaya.
the Going Merry, the merry-go-round.
And that's named after something from Kaya's life, right? It's a sentimental thing. They name it in honor of her.
It's that guy that died, right? Killed.
That's right.
Yes. and this is
a lamb guy.
Her, yes, like attorney or something. I say no. In the books, he's like just a shipwright. He works at the shipyard and made.
He's a family friend.
Yes, and named the Mary after himself. So they just get it. They're like, well, we'll call her the Mary too.
Going Mary.
That's right. You don't have to change it.
It's great.
Yeah.
It looks great. I love it. I don't love that they opened the mouth of the figurehead of the lamb figurehead. I would prefer that it was closed, but I think it looks great.
Otherwise, good. Yeah.
Again, I'm interested to see how, some of these characters they're going to introduce down the line, because from what I know of One Piece, there's like a whole ship full of characters. You got Chopper. I don't know how they're going to do him, but there's just a lot of hanging out on the ship, and I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm excited.
No, because they've been doing such a great job so far.
Did it feel too what do you even call it? What's the Mando thing? The grid. What the hell is it called?
Oh, the volume? No way.
The volume.
Compare the way that
did it feel too volume?
Yeah. No, yeah, and because it's so kind of otherworldly, where you're like, this is a totally different world. You can it stretches the limits of what you can do, because like it doesn't have to look super realistic all the time.
Right.
And there's so much practical there too. They're on a ship deck. They're in a set.
Yeah.
They're on a set. So even if there's some volume, there's practical stuff there that it works.
Yeah. Probably my biggest complaint with this whole live action show was, I think, the color grading, where at times I felt like the color grading was kind of weird. It almost is like they desaturated it at times to like the anime is known for just being very colorful, very loud colors, and very bright, vibrant. Right? Like you're saying, it's shot, a lot of it's in the day and stuff. I felt like with this show, they had the costumes and stuff that they could have gone super bright colored, but they just turned the saturation down a little bit to try to make it, maybe to make it appeal to like, kind of make it more edgy and stuff. But I thought they should have just gone full bright colors and stuff. Like they have like orange and green hair and stuff. Like I would have just made the colors pop more. That's my biggest complaint, I guess.
Does like if you're dialing around special effects, if they're like, if you hit this light level, things work. But if you go a little brighter, it all falls apart. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, but I just felt like at times it felt like the whole world was a little desaturated and washed out.
I would agree with that.
I had a note from my friend who likes this anime. They grew up watching it. I'm like, I'd never seen this. I watched the show. Their note was sometimes it was too orange. So you can't please everybody. Like too much sunset light. So
maybe it's just my TV. I don't know. But
you got to do the calibration like the Game of Thrones episode. It's your TV's fault. But this is probably a good place to take a break. We got the second half of these 4 episodes right after this, though. Get your TVs calibrated properly. We'll be right back.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we are trying to find the One Piece, because we are talking One Piece live action, the new Netflix 2023 series. Well, we were talking a little bit about how the special effects look. Let's go into that a little bit more, because now we get our first sea battle where the Mary leaves port and we are chased by the Marine ship. Garp is at the helm of it. We get the reveal. Grandpa, dun 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 dun,
which is a great episode hook. That's at the end of an episode, and you're like, grandfather.
Oh, I gotta go to this next one.
But
how does it look seafaring action wise? I gotta say, as a fan of this thing, when they have Garp pick up the cannonballs and throw them, I'm like, this is literally the point where I'm watching this show and I've seen a clown split in half and do all these other things. I've maybe seen a merman at this point, I can't remember. But literally, I'm going like, they got Garp throwing the fucking cannonballs. Oh, God bless this thing. They're really going for it. I love this.
Sure.
My disbelief was fully suspended at this point, and I was just loving whatever they were going to show me. Yeah.
The Marine side plot stuff is interesting because it's like, okay, so we meet this character, Kobe, at the beginning. He doesn't seem that important to the story, but then you keep following him after he leaves Luffy and everything. You're like, what's going on here? He meets this other guy, Helmeppo, who's seen as kind of a fool and a bad guy at the beginning. Like a real dandy.
He's the privileged, rich kids.
Rich little white boy.
Captain. He gets shown up by Zoro, and you're following these 2 characters as their Marine cadets, and you're like, what's going on? Then you have this other character, the Vice Admiral Garp, and you're like, how does this tie in where we're following these characters so much? And then you find out, Garp is Luffy's grandfather. He's been trying to make him not a pirate his whole life, basically, but Luffy's basically like, fuck you,
put
I
him
will
on
become
the
a pirate.
correct path.
What
dream should you have? You should have the dream I dictate to you. It is more important that you do the right thing than what you believe in. I just want to point out, Jacob, thank you for saying that Kobe stuff, because we hadn't brought any of that up yet. Now, like you said, Kobe changing in the book and, seeing blah, 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 whatever. You don't ever see Kobe again after the Alvida stuff
for like years.
Until you see, I mean, years. I truly mean maybe a decade of my life. Later, I was like, oh, it's Kobe. This is great. Now, when the showrunners are doing this thing to tie these narratives together to say it is not only a pirate starting out on his journey, what does that mean? It is the law enforcement of this world as well starting out and following their dream. What does that mean? Tying them together, I think that is the smartest thing this show did. I am so fucking impressed by that storytelling choice.
And they're both
they're really just condensing a lot of like something that took the anime and the manga years and years to kind of reveal the full picture of what's going on. This is doing a better job of condensing it into a more streamlined storyline, right?
Especially for something that serves as like a long form, series like this. You can add context and give character development. Every scene means something. There's no filler here. And you have two optimistic people who are encountering kind of the friction of the institutions that they're in, where Kobe just wants to be a Marine to help people that can't help themselves. But then he'll learn, sometimes the Marines are doing, unsavory stuff too. And Luffy's learning that a lot of pirates are bad, and how do I reconcile my dream with the, organizations, that represent that.
And by the way, on the topic of Kobe, I just wanted to shout out the actor that plays Kobe is trans, and I love to see this representation where you have a trans actor playing a character that's not specifically trans. It's just they're just a regular actor. So I like that seeing that representation.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
There's a Kobe.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know it if you didn't know.
No,
right.
Kobe is supposed to initially represent weakness or faltering or the person who, yes, they have a dream, but hide it away, right? And all that stuff. It's a very interesting choice to take somebody who becomes more of a masculine character, but starts out very emasculated as a non-binary or trans character. I thought that casting choice was incredible, Jake.
Again, crushing it all, this show.
Yeah.
That's great.
And also there's the fact that Kobe could just join Luffy's crew, but has his own dream. So he's like, I want to become a Marine. I want to help people. That's what Marines are supposed to do. Yeah.
And so, I think that's, like you said, Colin, the smartest thing they've done is show the two sides of the morality of this world and then how the youth kind of looks at it. Because that's, again, we have Garp. You must live my way. It's a lot of what does society or the parents or the adults want you to do versus what do you want to do and where do you put
and when you have Kobe joining the Marines and realizing that, Marines aren't all good. Like there's a lot of like corrupt and shady stuff going on too. Like people are people, like there's good people and bad people. So, he kind of learns a world lesson about that too. And then is kind of taken under Garp's wing as sort of a protege, right? They play Go together. Yeah.
They play Go together. And I should say Garp in the comic book wears that dog hat so you don't see his face. He is not revealed to be Luffy's grandfather for probably 8 or 10 years.
Wild. So smart audibles that they're calling, I'd say. But I like the, again, we see the Fuson, the balloon, Gum balloon, and Repel the Cannonball, famous thing from the anime. They did it to Buggy the first time I saw it done.
Yes.
In the anime, but a perfect use here. And then we get to the Baradier. Eventually.
This is maybe where I was even agreeing with you with the desaturation. They put in this kind of bad looking fake fog that I don't love as they're coming up to the Baradier, this sort of traveling sea restaurant. And are introduced to the rules here. And of course, a wily chef who is knocked down from his position by the owner of the restaurant, the head chef, Red Leg Zeph, and put out to be a waiter. This is Sanji.
Yep.
And I was guessing that this would be one of Mike's favorite parts because it's basically the bear on the sea, right? You have
also
Carmi over
the
here.
Guy who plays him has a ton of tattoos. I almost wanted them when he rolls his sleeves up. I was like, he should just have the tattoos.
Because Sanji never rolls his sleeves up, Jed. Let him have them.
No.
Sanji is basically Carmi. He's cooking. There's a lot of cooking in here, and and I love the idea of Zeph, the leader of the cook pirates, he was just a pirate captain who also just loves to cook.
Yes.
I mean, it's great. Yeah.
Now, Sanji...
their dream is to find the ultimate cooking recipe or ingredient location, right?
Well,
the Grand Blue or
the
something?
all blue. It's the all blue.
blue.
It is the
That's
sea where every type of food will be able to be found, which is basically ridiculous.
He just wants to
Because right
cook
now they're
more.
on the East Blue. The world is
yes.
divided into 4 quadrants, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
The Grand Line. Yeah.
Well, even more than that. Again, geography, topography, weather. Oda will hit you with all this stuff as you get into an island because he's got this world so built out. He just has all this fucking shit. It's incredible.
So great.
Now, we've gotten childhood backstories from all these characters, as you guys have pointed out, as we've gone through.
We've had Zoro kind of get powered up during the Black Cat arc. You know, we've been seeing, you know, this kind of flashbacks intermittently.
I shouted out this kid, this child actor before, but I just want to say, even just the writing, the backstory for Sanji, that he is alone on an island with another man for 90 days, and they make a partnership with each other to not see each other. And the man says, you take half the food, I'll take half the food. And the reveal that, no, he did not give him half the food. He gave him all the food, and he has chopped his leg off and has been slowly eating it. When I read that as a kid, I truly remember like talking to my father and being like, I read something really important today. It's like, what are you talking about? Me just being like I just read something that like, I mean, it's like of mice and men quality. Like it's something that like really makes you think. Like it was like a Twilight Zone short story to me as a kid.
I love that because I had no idea where it was going. And I was like, obviously this kid, I mean, Zeph is some kind of a mentor to him. They have sort of this relationship is kind of
little eggplant
antagonistic, but also mentory. And then this island backstory. I was like, this is fascinating.
Yeah, and there's a lot.
It's great.
Because watching the anime, whatever, there's so much like that. Like it gets dark. Like it's not scared. Like a kid show in America wouldn't do that. And so there are a lot of like childhood traumas being explored in these backstories, and it's wild to see that.
The arc of the East Blue, Mike, is to establish the world, but to let you see the darkness on the edge of it. And when you read the rest of One Piece and accept the full darkness that it is, I mean, it really, it's part of the reason I just savor it so much. It is such a sinisterly sweet story, with things like these and examples all throughout.
Yeah, because Luffy, if it gets darker from here and he maintains this spirit and belief, it's like that's you realizing the world isn't what you thought it was. But if you can maintain that childlike vigor, right, and believe in yourself, you just might come out the other side okay. I think that's really important what this is working with, like thematically.
Well, I just think about all of our attainable dreams. The three of us moved out here to California on some sort of whatever to do whatever.
On the Grand Line.
Behind the Grand Line, and had dreams. We had something we set out on, and it is something to critique and say, like, the world did change around us. Maybe things have gotten darker, maybe they haven't. Maybe you've gotten more self-realized, maybe you've, just grown more in the world and have just a better understanding of it. But it's also beyond your control, and there is something to say about sticking to following the dream in the face of all that.
Yeah.
Well, I think
that's
Luffy
like shown in 101.
Yeah, it's a good thing for kids. It's a good message for kids to see, because Luffy is a good role model where, not everyone who follows their dreams will accomplish their ultimate dream, and that's just the reality of life. But if you're told as a kid that you can do anything and you believe that, then that's going to drive you to have more ambition later in life, I think. So he's a positive role model. Yeah.
Again, he will die at certain points. Not die, but there will be moments where he thinks he's about to get his head cut off, and he will smile and say, at least I tried. Like, that is sort of the overwhelming point of it.
Yeah, we do get some of those lines where he's like, I am willing to die, Arlong, because I'm trying for my dream. That's why, it's really cool.
In this particular arc, we meet someone who is confirmed the world's greatest swordsman, Dracula Mihawk, who is part of a government organization that gives him special privileges that even though he's a pirate, he can operate. Now, this is based on the 18th and 17th century practice of privateering, where you had people like Sir Walter Raleigh, who were hired by the Queen to go do pirate stuff, and that it's like,
against
well,
other
at
countries,
least you're doing it to Spanish boats, and it's like, well, interesting.
It's basically governments hiring criminals to do criminal stuff to other nations
that they're competing with.
Privateering. It's absolutely incredible.
It's interesting, very interesting history. Maybe we'll talk about that.
Maybe
we'll see a lot of privateering pirates.
But
now,
Keith Richards.
You meet someone like Dracula who has this associated title. He literally is the world's most famous swordsman. You get Zorro doing this duel, saying, "I know who you are. I have to fight you." And you have everyone else on the crew saying, "Luffy, you must tell him he cannot do this because it is a death sentence." And you get Luffy saying, "This is great. This is the thing he was going after."
This is what he wanted.
Because the flip side, or the way that the angle he is coming out of it is, don't you understand? His dream is right there. I would love if the One Piece was right there too, because then I would grab for it regardless of the danger.
Yeah, I love it. There's a thing in the book, maybe for the anime, when they're fighting the unicycle guy, and Buggy's gonna do a 2-on-1 against Zoro, and Luffy just grabs his hand. He's like, "Stay out of Zoro's fight. This is a 1v1. They're letting them do this." That kind of energy. I love it. And Zoro does get dooskied, but Mihawk respects him enough, and it's like he vows at that moment, "I will never lose again."
We get this proclamation where a man cries to another young man that he just met and says, like, basically without saying it, "Because you follow your dreams, I will follow my dreams too." Which is like, I feel like I've had moments like that with my best friends in my life. So I don't know. It's powerful. It works on me.
Yeah.
And just to see these characters rubbing up against like the harsher parts of society, and just to defiantly be like, "Fuck you, I'm gonna do my dream." Like nothing will talk me out of this. Like nothing will discourage me. And like, people get discouraged. I get discouraged sometimes. Life's hard, from time to time. But just to have that energy, I'm like, damn, Luffy, get me on board. That's why I'm watching the anime now. I'm like, I need more of this energy. It's like, it's important. It's infectious. So good job. But I guess to continue with the show, now we figure out what's going on with Nami. Once we leave the Baradier, we get Sanji yelling at his buddy. That's a very sweet scene too.
Yes,
I
love the send off. Again, I love having Skyler Aston as the Sanji character, him joining the crew. Now, Mike, we get, this is again very different. In the anime, you saw the Don Craig stuff. I mean, it's hinted at here. We get it's sort of homage to when that's what Mihawk is wasting his time doing. Then he gets this mission from Garp. Again, it's all jumbled, but I really like the
have
execution
Mihawk for like a second.
Yes,
like literally,
it's fine. It's perfect.
Fine,
great.
And it's awesome. It hints at something greater. Yeah,
great, exactly.
And he looks incredible.
That's all I need.
I like he has a Spanish conquistador kind of theme, Catholic theme. He has like a cross and stuff. Giant cross sword. Very interesting character.
I love to see it.
Yeah.
Why? Sanji's a good fighter. I like when he's fighting.
You can
with
just see all the influences that Oda-san is combining here, and taking different things.
We're taking an interpretation of like Western pirating culture, and then he's putting his Japanese kind of spin and his own shonen vibes on it. It's cool to see all that stuff mashed together.
But his name is Dracula. Like his name is Dracula Mihawk. And literally, I'm not kidding, guys. Sometimes he'll be like, and this character is Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. And you're like, really? And he's like, yes.
Yeah, well, Django was Michael Jackson with a hypnotizing thing.
Yes, he was.
He would only walk backwards.
Yes,
in the anime.
He would moonwalk. That's the whole, he's a character that's written out, Jake. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He was helping the Black Cat crew.
Sure.
But so we go. This is now where we get to the Arlong arc. They kind of show up at the Baradier.
The mermen have showed up by this point, and we've sort of seen them. Now, what are we thinking, guys? We get some prosthetics of our other race, and there are a ton of other races in One Piece. So this is something they kind of need to nail.
Yeah,
I think they.
I think it looks great. Yeah,
I like.
It's practical.
Again, the guy that plays Arlong, he's doing great. Like,
yes,
he's a charismatic villain type, and he's killing it.
He's intimidating.
It's a black actor, which is important, I feel, personally. I'm not saying they would have to cast all mermen like this going forward, but the mermen in particular versus the fish people, who are or the mer people are sort of a subset we'll meet as well, are allegorically the slaves of this universe, or at least predominantly used as the slaves. And I think it's important to sort of showcase that subtly with that casting, and I think the guy who plays Arlong fucking kills it.
Dude,
you imagine he shows up to set every day, he gets made into a sawfish fish man, he walks out, he goes, great, where's the rest of my crew? 2 other goofy guys show up, he's like, great, let's go terrorize a little girl, and I gotta say the craziest stuff possible. You're like,
absolutely.
wow.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I love Arlong. I think, like you said, like he's rebelling against, you know, the structure that was oppressive to him, to the, you know, fish people. Like the society would, enslave them. And so he's like, I'm going to push back and we're going to take over the entire East Blue because fuck you guys, fuck all humans, right? Which bad response to trauma to you know, fuck everybody. But you know, he's
but it's understandable where he comes from.
It's reverse racism. You're racist against me. Well,
hurt
fuck
people,
humans.
hurt people.
And you're like, oh,
and he has that scene with the Marine captain where, you know, he's like, you know, you're smarter than I give you credit for. He's like, why? Because I'm a fish man.
Yeah.
And it's it's great.
No, it's good. And then the backstory with him and Nami now, like that's a whole ass thing too. We find out why she's been stealing. This is probably the fucking most affecting emotional stuff in the show. The Nami stuff is tough.
I thought executed really well too.
Yes. Yeah.
Emily Rudd crushes it here.
No relation to
she's great.
Paul.
Doesn't seem like.
No, but she's great. Yeah, so the deal is, what, you know, Arlong basically destroyed her village, raided her village. He shows up to a bunch of places and he says, you guys owe me protection money. If you can't afford it, I'm going to fuck you up. They couldn't afford it.
He's an orphan. She was purchased. She was found by a woman named Bellamere along with her adopted sister Nojiko. When Arlong comes to terrorize their village, he must pay, or I'm sorry, these people are extorted to pay per person of the home. She, Bellamere, refuses to not acknowledge that these girls are her daughters. This is obviously a whole trigger thing for her, that these adopted kids don't feel like they're her flesh and blood. They are. She will show that by sacrificing her life, which is one of those perfect, like, anime 100% resolve where you're like, that's very heavy-handed, but boy, it's also very effective. I love it personally.
There's the trope of if you're an anime mother with a ponytail, you're probably not making it.
No.
Sorry, you should have changed your hairstyle.
Sure.
But yeah, that's...
the thing is that Nami is then absorbed in the crew because she shows a talent for cartography. She is a great map maker and navigator, something fishermen are naturally bad at. So Arlong is more than happy to find himself a pet, good human to absorb into his crew. And he has basically been making her work her way up as a lieutenant at the cost of her lovability for the village. She is being turned on by the very people she is attempting to save.
Yeah, she's trying to earn money by joining Arlong's crew to eventually pay him off to get their village freed. But everybody in her village thinks she's a big traitor. You know, she has this pain, you know, she wants to help everybody. She can't say why she's doing what she's doing. So there's that whole thing. And then at the end of it... She can't
trust any pirates. She cannot trust anyone who is not herself. Certainly not a guy in a straw hat who keeps saying what his dreams are out loud.
And that I am going to be the best pirate, because pirates ruined her life, you know, and she's her life is actively still being ruined by a group of pirates, right? So I get where she's coming from. But the big thing here, I didn't see this coming, but the reveal with Nezumi, you know, she's kind of confronted with her sister, you know, why did you leave? You know, we kind of do that. But then when the Marines come and it's like, guess what? We're taking all your fucking treasure. Like, she was so close.
Yeah, she's
that's a very famous scene.
She has this breakdown. Yeah, when she stabs her tattoo, right? And yeah, that scene was great. And she's just like at the end of her rope, right?
She was branded as a child. When you guys again say what pirating represents to her, it's what it represents, the ugly part of herself. She literally wants to cut a piece of herself out. She's stopped by this person she has started to trust. And for the first time ever, she says, help me. She asks for help. And in the anime, it's just supposed to be, and in the manga as well, one big deep breath, takes a couple steps. Of course. I mean, And in this, it's him screaming again, of course I will help you. Of course I will help you. It's great. It's effective. It hypes you up. I'm watching it and I'm going like, fuck yes, go kill Arlong. And a lot of the time, I will say this real quick. fans of One Piece say, so this is why I think this is so important for it to be the final thing adapted in the anime, that if you get up to the walk to Arlong Park, which is what this particular moment is called, after the stabbing, where the crew gathers and walks to the oncoming battle, and you are not resonating with the story, stop. That is the point where you can say it is not for you. But if you give it enough attention up to that point and you find something in the storytelling, I promise you from then on, it is just going to reward you 100 times. I mean, it will just compound and compound. It's incredible.
Yeah. When they all show up at the gate, like we're ready to fight some fishmen, and I love it. And they all have their, different fighting styles. I mean, again, a great choreography in this last episode.
And Zoro is supposed to be like not even able to walk by this point in the anime.
He got
like
very seriously injured.
He's supposed to be just like dying and still like easily killing people though. And you're like, Zoro, like Oda-san has got on to say like, I didn't really write it in the first part of the story, but like when Luffy meets Zoro, Zoro's probably 10 times stronger than Luffy is at that point. Like Zoro is maybe the strongest character in the East Blue by this point.
Sure, because of course he's been training all his life to become the best swordsman in the world. So
because as we learn, his childhood friend passed away. He's the white
very
sword
sad.
has been handed to
Kuina,
him.
which in the anime we do learn in the manga as well that the accident is she falls down a flight of stairs, which people call she falls down D stairs. That she was defeated by down D stairs.
Down D stairs. Okay, gotcha. Jeez, rip. But very badass. This is like I was already sold, but we've been building momentum, and like you're just like, yeah, fuck Arlong, dude. Like I'm
Arlong,
enraged,
dude.
and he gives her the hat, and it's a change of day to night. I think effective change of the timing of that scene. And like the handing of the hat's a big deal because that's it. Nobody touches my hat, But
it is my treasure. They should have. I wish they would have done like a cutaway anime style to say my hat is my treasure. They needed to hit that moment. I think at least 5 more times for that episode to really make it strong that he gives the hat up to her.
Yeah,
but it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, because we have her repairing the hat and stuff too, which is nice throughout. So it's been in the series. In a binge, it probably hits heavier than in the episode in a vacuum. But this battle is great. Some of the choreography is great. I don't know. I haven't seen the battle yet in the anime, but the pillars and bringing down the house and stuff. It's like, dude, like, come on, it's so sick.
When he realizes that he's not fighting Arlong, he's fighting the prison that Nami was shackled to. He is fighting her dark past.
He took him off when I was 12. It was a birthday gift.
Man, candy.
Shit.
God, the worst.
And he has bulletproof skin, so Luffy has to think outside the box, and that's how you do it. We'll just bring this whole thing down on top of you. Then your whole empire, you'll crumble beneath it. Fucking great.
Do you guys understand, sorry, real quick, that him just getting splashed with water, that is not the weakness of a devil fruit. That is, do you guys understand that?
I do, but maybe because I watched the show.
I don't even know what
you could break it down.
You mean when Dracule like dumps him in the water and then Sanji saves him? Like, is that what you're talking about?
That is his weakness. And if you recall, Buggy as well drowning him in seawater where he puts him in like a magic trick tank and, it slowly starts to fill up.
I was wondering like why... Like when Mihawk dumps him in the water, like why couldn't he just swim out of it?
So if you take a devil fruit, you cannot swim anymore. The sea makes you so weak that you cannot move. But
they should have explained that better because I did not.
They very much should have. Yeah. And the thing that I wanted to point out though was there's a difference with just Arlong splashing him. That is supposed to be fishmen are so strong they throw water like bullets. And if you're just splashed with water, that's not going to zap you. It's the still water of the sea. If you stand in an inch of it, the inch in the water is paralyzed. If you're showering in it, it's passing over you. You're not necessarily getting your strength zapped.
Yeah, they could explain that better. Like that Mihawk thing was a big moment, and I was like, wait, why does he just not swim? And then Sanji dives in and saves him. And it's like this big thing, and I just didn't understand that. So that's something that could have hit harder. Yeah.
Which is it's a great thing to have in a pirate show that in order to have these powers, you cannot go in the water and you're constantly surrounded by water.
Right.
Like, it takes guts just to go out there every day. Yeah. Right. So it should be explained a little bit better. But
Mackenyu gives that story where she says, well, the sea will reject you, where she says to Luffy in his flashback when he first bites the devil fruit. But again,
that's 8
the
hours prior.
wording she's using. And it's like the sea will reject you. It's like, you need to say out loud, you cannot swim ever again. You need to lay these things out.
Buggy could have underlined it too. Like, you can't fucking do shit more clearly. But
well, anyway. And for Buggy, I mean, the two of them are the only devil fruits we see. There really should have been a conversation of, this is the rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even in the show, like if you watch it vanilla on Netflix, the anime, they don't really explain the devil fruit. People talk about them, but they don't explain it till later. But then in the One Piece, they explain it right up top. These are the rules of the devil fruit. These are the pros and cons. It's like, thank you.
Yeah.
But minor nitpick for what's otherwise a fantastic show.
Would you guys rather eat the of the two now, the rubber or the chop?
Rubber, probably.
I still think rubber.
Love doing Mr. Fantastic.
You don't want to just be like a bunch of separated like little fingers.
I could be cooking over there for someone and working. Yeah.
Yeah. Split you up like
you could get away from stuff though. If somebody tries to, I don't know, do something to you, you just go no, I'm over here now.
It could have benefits, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I take whatever one I can get. I don't go to the ocean anyway, so.
You would eat one though, if it meant you couldn't swim anymore.
Yeah, with the amount of times that I swim now anyway, I think it's worth it. Give me a devil fruit.
Yeah.
Same, Jacob.
It is interesting for a pirate because you would think that swimming would be potentially important for being a pirate, but I guess it's a good trade-off.
You have to sacrifice that whole part of it, Yeah.
So, the sea, Mother Sea.
Is there anything we're missing on this last episode before maybe we roll over to last thoughts on this great series?
Just that, Garp and the Marines show up in the end. They have this confrontation where they finally kind of meet face to face, and then there's a fight, and then he's like basically like, I was kind of testing you this whole time, like I knew I wasn't going to be able to change your mind because you're so stubborn.
It's pretty like serious.
Now the most critical review that I saw of One Piece live action was that, and I probably not from a fan, but the person saying, well, if Garp is a vice admiral of the Marines and they're the ultimate bad guys, doesn't that take away any of the danger? Isn't he automatically going to get these get out of jail free cards going forward? I disagree with that a little. I think this fight does showcase the clashing of ideologies coming to a head where they just say like, well, I guess that's it. I'll see you out there. Like it is going to be a struggle, but it's not necessarily that either of them are going to be pulling any punches going forward. Would you guys feel either way?
I don't think he would want to kill Luffy, but he wants Mihawk to bring him in alive, right? But maybe in the future, I don't know.
He's still going to want to join me and we can rule the seas as grandfather and grandson. Like he's going to want to do that, and Luffy's going to resist it, and it'll be an ideological battle.
Very Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah, Sea Wars. But yeah, man, I just really like this show. And now once I get,
I can't believe it happened,
bro. Yeah. So I'll say this and then we can go to final thoughts. But once I get to the point in the anime where I've seen up to whatever this is, I think I'm close. Then I'm going to rewatch the show live action just because I have more knowledge. Like I'm loving it. So anyway, but that's the plot. That's the 8 episodes that we got, and we're going to go over to the end of this show. That'll be the next spot. So catch you on the other side, Normies.
Gomo. See you in a bit. We're back here on One Piece. The adventure comes to an end. We put our maps away. We head to our crow's nest and get ready to say goodbye as we're finishing up, giving our final thoughts here on the live action Netflix adaptation of Eiichiro Oda's One Piece.
Yeah.
I'm
rolling
guys,
the barrel
I'm so
out.
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to put our feet up on it in a little bit. Not yet, but
yes,
I got it over.
Proclaim our dreams. Another moment where I'm like, well, this certainly won't work. And then you have Skyler Aston turn to the camera with the biggest grin possible. Hey, what if we did something cool real quick? Just like sets it up and you're like, wow, it is working.
I love it.
And Luffy
and when they put their feet up,
yeah.
I like to think that because Sanji puts his foot up first and he has like the kicking style of fighting. So I was like, he's just using his foot because that's what he does. And then I like to think Luffy just went with it, and then just the rest of them just went with it and all put their feet up.
He's like, what are you guys doing? No, put your hands in. This is my thing.
We'll put our foot. That's great. I didn't think about that. It's a nice touch.
But
yeah, they all say that. What a great way to end it.
Yeah.
Reiterating what their goals are for season 2,
Yes.
Yeah.
And you hope they
it's hooking you for the next season. You want to see more adventures. you see a reveal of someone who I assume is a big character from the anime.
Yes,
just
we
shot
get a
from
post-credit
behind.
scene of a white-haired man smoking, which is
What could his
very
name
big
be?
setup to what the next arc will be. Yes, he might have a name that is just
we'll
smoke.
leave
But, interesting.
Interesting.
And I would love to see where it goes. Again, obviously the fans' big thing is like, well, okay, Netflix, does this mean you're signing up for 30 seasons? Because that would be a hell of a
I think they
commitment.
they can condense it for this format.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a bummer that, Cowboy Bebop was canceled pretty much immediately due to negative fan reaction, and which is, Netflix, you got to give these shows a little chance to maybe find an audience, because they spent so much time making Cowboy Bebop, and then to cancel it like the week after it premieres, it's like, well, you didn't even give anyone a chance to like really give it a fair shot. But this show, obviously the reaction is very different, so I assume, they will be making more seasons. How long can you go? I mean, obviously these characters are going to age the more seasons you do. So are you going to have like a 30-year-old Luffy still going around trying to find the One Piece? I don't know.
Time skip, yes.
Yeah.
There is a time skip, and I will just say we're probably about 6 years away from the story wrapping up. It's now headed into what it calls its final chapter, which will not be brief. So.
Gotcha. So if they're going to finish
it's a lot
thing,
like
it'll take a while.
To Bloodborne it up and make it about the thing that I know. Again, it's a lot like Hunter. Luffy is a lot like Gon, very shonen protagonist, very naive but optimistic, following his dreams, loves food. That's a big character thing for Gon as well.
Why do all the shonens like to eat food a lot? Why is that?
Because Goku did.
Right.
Goku does, Toriko does, Naruto does.
Is it just like
Luffy
an impulse
does,
thing?
Gon
Like,
does.
I'm just impulsive and like free of spirit.
Yes.
I don't know, but it might just be because
What's the
Goku
Bleach
did it.
kid's name? What is his
Bleach.
name?
I think his
I
name
can't
is
remember
Bleach.
That's right.
I don't know.
Bleach does it too.
Yeah, Bleach does it.
Look,
it's a trope, but
it's a trope. But Jacob, the main criticism I always see about anime that, again, I read in like an AV Club article, I always love to reference it because I think it really was crystallizing for me, where somebody says an anime is only as good as its protagonist. You can like every side character on the planet, but if you don't like the protagonist, it doesn't work. I think you particularly shouting out Inaki Godoy to start this thing doubles down that this story really only works if they nail Luffy. And again, 100%. I think they did here. So
I think the whole thing falls apart if you don't cast that, if you don't cast the right person in that role. Like, I don't think it works as well as it did. And again, check out Hunter if you do like One Piece and you want, to check out something similar, because I mean, that's a long running manga as well. I haven't checked out the manga, but it's been going for many years. The central mystery of that is Gon wanting to find who his father is. So there's this mysterious parentage thing, which I think Luffy might have to with his grandfather and everything. And again, you get a dark world through the eyes of a child, an optimistic child like character who's seeing, but there's these dark realities going on that he doesn't quite understand yet. So it reminded me a lot of Hunter x Hunter, I'll say, and that's a show that I enjoyed a lot when I was watching it. And maybe I will watch the anime of One Piece, or maybe I'll do One Piece. Like
I recommend One Piece highly.
Mike.
You should.
Obviously, I purchased all the episodes before I did that. But,
right.
Because I don't have, I can't watch thousands of episodes.
It's 45% shorter overall.
Okay.
1,000 hours of your life will be saved.
And then there's all these movies, these standalone movies on Netflix and stuff. There's been so many of those made, right? And I mean, it's a lot, but I definitely was a big fan of this show. And like I said, maybe I will give Cowboy Bebop a chance, because I was skeptical about these live action. I kind of feel the same way about like the Disney live action adaptations, where it's does this need to be adapted? Like, what is the need to adapt it, right? Other than to make money, I guess, but which is the ultimate need of all things, apparently. But they did a great job with this. I thought season 1 was excellent, and I'm definitely looking forward to more seasons.
Nice. Yeah, I think it hit me at the exact right time. Like, I figured I would never start One Piece.
Are pirates a big part of your life right now, Mike?
Orions are a bigger part once we get Lower Decks back, but I wouldn't like to say that they're all pirates. But they're starting to become a bigger part of my life, I think, for the next couple months. But no, more just the shonen energy, because world's kind of not great right now for a lot of reasons, and it's easy to get cynical. I get cynical sometimes, and just to see Luffy and Godoy just like, nope. Inaki's like, nope, we're just gonna believe it, and I'm like, maybe I'll believe it. You know what? So yeah, I love it. I'm doing the anime now. I highly recommend that.
I feel the same too. I can be cynical, I can be jaded, and it's good to remember that sometimes you just have a positive attitude. You have to believe in yourself and believe in your dream, right?
Yeah, because everything else is going to tell you can't do it, and if you buy into that, is to surrender. And so I like when Luffy calls out these other characters, like, you don't believe in your shit hard enough. I can see it, and that's why I'll defeat you, and I'll be the king of pirates. And it's like, damn.
Right.
Yes.
So I think that's really important. It's not like I thought I aged out of shonen shit, but I think I need it more now than ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That energy.
I'll answer that with my final thoughts, Mike, and say, like, I don't think it's ever left me from hitting it so young, because it's when I say like that I treat this like a religious text, that's a funny thing to say, but I think that anything you're drawing moralistic integrity or choices from is something like that. And when I in high school had friends laugh at and say, well, Colin, you did the theater stuff, you want to get a film degree, I would like to do that too, but good luck. I'll be taking the safe route and getting my dental degree or something. Part of me would think in the back of my mind, well, Luffy would laugh at you because you are not following your dreams. And I know that's like a silly thing to say, but it is something that influenced my life.
Yeah, for a kid to see that message, I think is important.
Yes.
It's important to me as an adult.
We had an incident a while ago, Jacob, where somebody was not being very kind to one of our friends, and I got in a little trouble because I sort of would not back down with my antagonistic behavior to this person for how they were treating a friend of ours, which again came from a very One Piece place of my mind, of the Shanks lesson of, you can mess with anybody, you can mess with me, do not mess with the people that I care about, because that is very foolish. And again, to pretend that like you're not important to me, no, I will flip you off and say fuck you because, fuck you, you're messing with something I care about.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about specifically, but maybe we'll talk about it off pod. But
maybe one day.
Don't fuck with my people. Absolutely.
I'm surprised that this is such a big part. Like, I know you've mentioned it before, Colin, as being like one of your favorites and everything, but I had no idea that it was that important to you, because it's not something you talk about a lot in detail with us.
And I would say, no active merch around me that I can see. I think I have like a pendant of Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, and Chopper that's up on my pin board right here, just because I love those characters. Again, I'm not necessarily going to wear this out on my sleeve. It's always been to me more of a something of, if you know, and if you don't, you don't. I work with someone right now, a young lady from Germany, who's a good friend of mine, who you guys won't believe this. Where is the anime the most popular in the world? It's not Japan, it's not America, it's France. France developed like the #1 fanship for One Piece in the world because of the cartoon.
They like Tintin. It's like a modern telling of Tintin.
Yes, wow, it is. It truly is. Yeah. But so this young woman who's 10 years younger than me said something where she says like, well, like, talk about having a crush on a cartoon. My first crush was Zoro, where I said, oh, excuse me, are you a One Piece fan? And she said, no, I'm the biggest One Piece fan. And I said, no, you're talking to the biggest One Piece fan. Where it is sort of this thing where it's like, again, if you know, or if you don't, you don't. I'm not going to push on anybody. It is like, what I like about it is what I like about it. And Joe, former host of this podcast, a million years ago, said to me when we were living together, where I was kind of pushing to him that is my favorite thing on the planet, where he said, well, not even what makes it so good, like, what do you just like truly like about it the most? And I kind of broke it down to say, like, imagine if there was one comic book. It's not Fantastic Four, it's not the Avengers, there's one comic book called Marvel, and it's 1,000 issues, and it follows maybe just the X-Men. Like, they're the core people. But every 100 issues or so, they bump into Spider-Man or somebody else where you're like, fuck, that's a great character. I would love to see Spider-Man again. He's like my favorite character ever.
Right.
You wouldn't know in your mind, oh, I'm missing out because I don't have 1,000 Spider-Man spin-off books or something else. No, with One Piece, you have that. Every character is interesting. Every character has depth. You'll get a 2-second flashback for one character where they reveal, well, I'm the way I am because everybody in my town voted to eat every child, and I'm the only one that escaped. And you're like, wait, what? That person's the villain. And then they'll lose, and you'll be like, wait, no, but I care about that person now. It will do this thing where, again, it's so richly written that you would never for even a second say, well, I wish I had a Zorro spinoff that was 30 chapters of the backstory of Zorro. You don't want that or need that, truly, because you don't even know that that's an option. And if you had it, you wouldn't want it. This is one singular story written by a mad genius who, not in a vindictive way, but truly the more and more it gets popular, the more he goes, well, there's got to be a way for me to break you guys. You can't like it if I do this. And you're like, no, but guess what, buddy? I'm doubling down. I like it more. And he's like, really? It's a shocking ride to be a part of. That, again, I haven't missed for over 20 years.
No, he's always been with you. Luffy's been a companion, right?
And Mike, I had a very serious surgery about 7 years ago where it wasn't a question about whether or not I was going to die. But one of the thoughts in my mind was, it would be pretty sad if I went under and never woke up again and didn't get to know the end of that thing that I've been reading for like 15 fucking years. Yes.
I just want the One Piece ending. Yeah.
Again, that's like Hunter x Hunter, where they one day will reveal Goen's dad.
Why?
Is what they say, but who knows when it'll end. And again, Game of Thrones, people have been waiting for the ending of A Song of Ice and Fire since the 90s. And, more and more every year, it's looking more and more like you won't get that ending because just due to the realities of how old George R.R. Martin is and that kind of thing. So these long running stories.
But those fans are going to be susceptible to jump the ship moments. And I truly believe that I never will. It's gotten there for a lot of people very recently in the last year, where maybe it seems like it's leaned a little more towards the he was always the chosen one story. But even that I would refute. And I have so much faith in this guy that I just trust we're on this ride and it will come to the conclusion that it does. And I'll say narratively too, characters in this world have flat out said to Luffy, do you want me to tell you what the One Piece is? Like, characters that like do know. And he goes, no, because I would still like to go on the journey. And it is one of those things where you almost feel Oda being like, look, I have to address this to the audience. I know that everyone who started reading this is an adult now. You can't take the shortcut. We have to be in it for the long haul.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
Yes,
right?
But that said, so many people have also said to him, you're not going to do the thing where the One Piece is revealed to be the friends you made along the way. And he has said, no, it is a thing. And
the One Piece was inside of you all
right.
Yes, exactly. No.
No.
So we'll see.
I'm just so happy that this is being received well. Again, One Piece, I watched anime. Like, I'm a fan of anime generally. I'm not crazy about it, but I'll watch series, JoJo's Attack on Titan era. I was more into it, whatever. But One Piece was so daunting because I'd never started it. It's 1,000 episodes. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to touch this thing. And this show completely flipped me 180. I've watched this arc 3 times, 3 different ways, just to see how it tastes. And I'm just excited for the number of family dinners that are going to be less awkward now. So someone's mom will sit down. So how about that Mihawk and like a kid that's like, finally, like, the thing that I'm talking about.
Again. But Mike, if you told that little boy in 1997 that parents ever could do that, I mean, the world has changed. That's all I wanted to say about this whole podcast. The world has changed, and I'm so excited for where we are now in this aspect.
Yes, there's some good. Pay these people. Get the strike wrapped up. Please pay everybody so we can make more of this.
From the word, the showrunner was like, we're done. 2 weeks after the strike wraps, we could start production. So I would love, yes.
Yeah, let's get it going.
Again, the Cowboy Bebop of it all, where they tried with that show, it wasn't well received. And again, that's such a beloved single season of anime where it's like almost untouchable of like, this is like a sacred text. And One Piece, you know, the manga might be that for you, Colin, but it's also like there's a lot more material, so you can condense it and take the most interesting kind of parts, right? Now, I was wondering because I might check out, I might watch the live action Cowboy Bebop now that I've given One Piece a shot, and I knew One Piece would be better because I was watching the trailer on YouTube for One Piece, and all the comments were positive. I was like, that's a surprise. If I know anime fans, if anything, like Star Wars fans, it's impossible to please them, right?
Yes.
But all the people are like, I was skeptical about the show, but man, this looks good and stuff. So I was like, wow. But Cowboy Bebop, now that's a show that you guys like to varying degrees, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that I check that out now?
Here's how I look at it. The Cowboy Bebop show, I think, is fun, and it has some good stylistic stuff. There's some cool choreography and cool scenes and neat stuff going on. The problem with Cowboy Bebop and Death Note is the changes that they made to them were not in the spirit of the characters of the story. They changed the spirit of the characters in the story, and everything they've changed in One Piece is still in line with the spirit of that story and those characters. So
I know there's one major change that you don't like in the live action Cowboy Bebop.
It's a massive change to what the story and the characters would be. So
but I was wondering,
it's not one little.
It's a big one.
But episode to episode, do they adapt like the more episodic stories
you get a
of
Pierre
One Piece,
LaFau
or is it
kind of thing? Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
So taking some of those stories, but maybe not told in the same order, kind of thing.
It seems much more spirit oriented. Now, again, I have watched the Death Note, the Full Metal, the Cowboy Bebop, the Bleach, the whatever Netflix has. They truly, if you search, they have all this crap.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Jacob, you say, would I recommend any of these? My response is always, what do they hurt? Like, and when people were like, Colin, are you nervous about what they're going to do to One Piece? It's going to ruin it. Or I go like, the only thing it's going to do is up the Google searches. And like Mike said, I can have a conversation with someone who like turns to me and goes like, so how about that, the Cowboy Bebop? So what is that? Huh? You're just like, oh, wow, here we go. Like,
well, that's why I never had,
who cares?
Yeah, I never had anything against the live action Cowboy Bebop. Even as a major fan of the original, I knew like, either way, this original is still going to exist. And that's kind of how I feel about all adaptations. I just feel like sometimes they're unnecessary, but if they're done well, then I'm in.
I think this is a necessary adaptation, One Piece, because it was so kind of difficult to get into, especially even if you're an anime fan, it's daunting. You know, like I watched 300, 400 Narutos, no problem, but I could not start One Piece. And then casuals on top of that. To get them to check out this thing that's special to so many, many people, this is a necessary one because it's the only way to get them in the door. And now I think a lot of people are hooked.
Can you guys think of anything else that was considered unadaptable that they could jump onto now? I guess like the Brian K. Vaughan comic book saga, a lot of people are like, well, that could never be made. Where now I'm like, you just do anything. Like, who cares? Like, do it.
Yeah. They said Dune was unadaptable for a long time. So, yeah.
No, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. After seeing the Kuro fight, I'm like, you can do
live action JoJo.
Mike, I definitely think I've seen a live action JoJo movie that was pretty bad.
Oh, no.
I don't know. And actually, I think Mac and Ryu might be in one of those as well.
Oh, shoot. I didn't even know.
Again, you have those Full Metal Alchemist movies. People have mixed feelings about those.
Does he play JoJo?
No, he plays Okuyasu, the friend of. So he does Diamond Is Not Crash. Diamond Is Unbreakable.
That's his stand name?
The fourth or fifth one. No, his stand. Okuyasu's stand. I can't remember his name, but anyway.
I guess what I would want next is Hunter x Hunter, the show I keep bringing up.
That, you know what? And I've seen a lot of people. I'll just say real quick, the other two anime that I check out pretty frequently. I watch Spy X Family. I know you're not supposed to pronounce the X, Jacob, but I watch Spy X Family and I adore it. And then the other thing on the shonen side, I don't read, but I do watch is Boku no Hero Academia. Hero Academia. My Jacob, that is supposed to get a movie, and a lot of the fans are like, if One Piece did it, we're in safe hands, which I also think is like a cocky attitude to have, where it's like they're not all going to be good going.
No,
we need a temporary.
I mean, the track record is like This is the first good one. But...
1 out of 10. It's like, I don't know that we're committing to everything's going to be good all of a sudden. Yeah.
The Death Note one, I did see that movie. That was particularly bad. And again, they changed
it's truly
so much.
Terrible. Yes.
Yeah. And even good actors in it too, like Lakeith Stanfield, but it's still bad.
Yes.
Biggest waste of Lakeith Stanfield.
Yeah, I guess My Hero Academia, interestingly, is like is one of the most new big ones that I've like. That's one that came out when we were already like in
Kaisen
college,
is big now.
right?
That's the big hot one.
Yes.
Chainsaw Man,
absolutely.
but that's too violent.
Chainsaw Man, One Punch Man.
I would love to see a live action Chainsaw Man. One Punch Man.
Yeah.
Jacob, I would love to see Hunter x Hunter because again I'm not familiar with it, but Yu Yu Hakusho, his previous one, I think is about to get a Netflix live action
Yu Yu Hakusho
movie
as well.
or series.
That could work.
I don't know which.
I like they have excellent drip. The characters, they all look they have great clothes.
Nice.
So I respect.
It's kind of anime live action going for it. Again, Jacob was saying it. Listeners or watchers at home, he's wearing a shirt where Jacob was like, "I could wear this in One Piece, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, you could do."
I wore this shirt.
Totally.
My new theme for our pirate season, I'm wearing these different Hawaiian shirts and such. And maybe this would be my One Piece pirate costume.
So we're doing September and then
October
and then November.
Yeah, we're skipping Argtober. You're right.
Yeah. Argtober.
September. Wow, I'm proud of us.
But I am excited. And like we said, Normies, we mentioned on earlier episodes, we are going to be doing Pirates of the Caribbean as our next long-form series. And this was kind of the great way to get into the pirating mood. And maybe we'll have something next week that can't be found on a map. Hint, hint.
Yeah, for a treasure of some kind that's not on a map. And it's not a national one. Don't you dare think that.
I hate it.
I can't wait. What better? We get a great
something equally good.
3 people.
Yeah.
Geez, man. I do have to say it's my final thought because I'm going to be going on a little journey to, for my birthday. I've been planning a trip to go to Japan, and I have long flights, which means long time to watch One Piece. But also now I know about this thing that's just like I can just have a conversation with people now because I never knew anything about One Piece. So now I have this, cultural currency that I can trade in just in the world, and I'll get the references.
And again, when we're saying like it's the most popular thing in the world, and somebody listening to this going like, no, it's not. I haven't heard of this. Mike, when you go to Japan, billboards, sponsors at 7-Eleven and stuff, they were the first.
You're like greeted from the airport with them, like, hey, welcome in.
The animated One Piece characters, talk about drip, were the first animated characters to ever be featured on GQ magazine. They were for GQ Japan. Like the characters of One Piece are treated like a kid could just like ask his dad, like, what's Luffy gonna do tomorrow? And the dad would be like, well, Luffy's gonna like he's a real person.
They're legit celebrities. The characters themselves are celebrity status. Yeah, it's incredible. So it's gonna be cool to be in the know for once.
Yes. I'm happy for you, Colin, as a mega fan that it worked out, that people are liking it, and it's a win, So I'm
shocked.
It's a win. One Piece.
Wow.
Every text that would come in as we're setting these episodes up where you guys are like, I'm liking what I'm watching. I'm seeing this. I'm understanding this little stuff. I mean, more and more. I just gotta say, oh, sorry, real quick. Last Easter egg I want to point out. Again, this is just the level of detail these people are putting out. In panels of the cartoon and in the anime, I'm sure as well, you will see a character called Panda Man. Panda Man is a man with a panda head.
Okay,
sometimes his body will say the words panda across it written. He's Panda Man. Panda Man was the first character Oda ever sold for a very popular wrestling manga, which I believe is called Ultimate Muscle here in America.
Yeah, Kinniku Man.
Kinniku Man. They used to hold open contests. Fans write in, submit a character. Oda's was chosen. It was the first time he ever made money as a mangaka, right? Creating a character, writing and selling it. So he puts in an Easter egg. Sometimes Panda Man will just be in the background of a panel. Now, in Kaya's garden in the Syrup Village, there's a huge shrubbery bush made to look like a panda that you see multiple times when Zoro is in and out of the well. Again, the attention to detail. When you're seeing that, you're just like, I'm out loud saying like, the person who made this likes One Piece. I know that shouldn't sound astounding, but it is nice when that occurs.
Yeah. They are familiar with the material and they genuinely like it.
Yes.
when passion is applied, look at what can happen, guys. Like, when you actually make an effort. But what's good is the people who grew up with this stuff are now in positions where they're making the stuff, and I think we're seeing that with the video game movies and things. So it's great, and I'm so glad, Colin, that I like this. I'm upset with myself for not seeing it sooner. Like, that's how impressed I am.
Love to hear
it.
One Piece in general. So
got a new convert into the One Piece fandom.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Anime rules the world. Michael B. Jordan is fucking making those Creed fights be Dragon Ball fights, like all us little kids.
I'm telling you,
please don't beat me up.
It's because everyone our age was watching it as a kid and is now in a position to, like Michael B. Jordan, who's like probably around the same age as us, is making anime-inspired boxing movies, and it just makes sense. Yeah.
Logan Paul will buy like 5 tons of Pokemon cards and then like flip them, and you're like, that's just something a celebrity can do, and they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, it's just it's a wild world now.
Yeah, Megan Thee Stallion has like anime bars in her raps. Like, she's an outed weeb. Like, she loves anime. You know, it's a great time.
Post Malone owns like all those Magic the Gathering cards that are like special, right?
Yeah, he has the one ring.
Paying like $1 million. He has the one ring.
Yeah. If only I was rich enough to indulge my niche interests, I would.
All we have to do is get to the Grand Line, get the One Piece. You can become some
right.
pirates.
Find Gold Roger's treasure.
That's right. Then we can buy.
All right, now before we go, let's put our foot up on this barrel and declare our dreams real quick.
Yep.
To make the best podcast ever.
To also assist in making the best podcast ever.
My dream is to be the greatest normie that's ever lived.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm the most normie of them all.
Heck yeah.
And you are. And you were.
The grand normie.
Wow.
Said Ian McShane. Thank you, normies, for going on this journey with us. We appreciate it. I especially do appreciate it. Thank you guys for letting me kind of ramble. I'm sure you guys muted me a couple times just so you could get a break. It won't show up on the podcast, we promise.
Never.
Sure. Yeah.
But please, normies who are listening, hit us up at normies_like_us, where you can rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, leave your thoughts, write a message that says, Colin, this is my favorite devil fruit. I would eat this one. Or, you know, I've always loved One Piece. I'm a little girl from Finland. I love that. Just let me know. I'm very excited to hear those things. Mm-hmm. And also check out our YouTube page where you can watch along.
Absolutely.
That's right.
All right.
Outro?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We have been your hosts. This is I'll be Brooksy the clown then.
Oh, I'll switch it too. I was gonna be Dracula Mike Hawk.
Oh, there we go.
And this is Rora Jacob Zorro.
Rora Jacob Zorro.
A famous pirate hunter.
That's right.
Yep. All right. Well, we're gonna hunt down some pirates in the next couple months, but otherwise we'll catch you next time, normies. Gumu Gumu, bye.
Bye.
Every great fighter says their
finishing moves out loud.
Says goodbye phrase out loud. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Just cut before I say that. Yeah.
I'm cutting after you said that. I'm cutting right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Cut all this right now.
Arlong, I'm going to cut it all out. All right, bye.